All right, this is Randalicious. Welcome to the 77th Hexis podcast. In this podcast, we'll be discussing the March Gillinor Gazette, Soul Wars, the Poll 70 blog, poll results, and the PvP status update announcement. So we're going to be going with 4 people on this podcast. We had Dan was going to be on it, but he's sick. And then Sween was in here 5 minutes ago, but the servers are down. There's a lot of login issues. So Sween had to leave us just 2 minutes ago. They made a couple posts about what's been going on with the login servers, and you can follow the updates on the Old School RS Twitter for what's going on with that. But that's why we're down 2 from the initial start here. But this podcast and all other future podcasts available at YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everything else. Open up our clan Discord to the public. You guys can join with the link, and I'll link you guys here in the chat, but it'll also be like in the video description. But let's get to it. I'm Randalicious, and I'm the leader of Hexis.
Abra, Bronze Star, and Hexis.
Manked, please speak. I had my mouth full of baked beans on toast.
I'm Manked and I'm a PK. Enjoy my dead man mode and all things like that.
My name's Ian. I stream Old School RuneScape, probably as a PKer as well. And yeah, pleasure to be here.
All right, so you guys, it's the first time that you guys have been on a podcast. Some people that watch the Skilling podcast may not be as familiar with PKers. Give people a little bit more information about yourself and like your RuneScape experience.
I'll go first again in then. Yep. I've PK'd for, I'd say, probably around 15 years or so. I started playing a normal account and then it got hacked by my friend because I overtook him in combat level. And then I made a new account to PK on. And I've been PKing ever since. And then I'd say where people may know me from is from either Deadman Mode or All Stars.
How many DMMs have you won?
2, both technicals as well. But All Stars was a solid, clean slate, so it was good.
15-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So my background in PvP is pretty much similar to Manked. About 15 years ago, I played the game normally, and then I got hacked as well. Not by a friend, luckily, but still, I got hacked, lost all my stuff. I almost had enough money to buy a Santa, so it was devastating. I made a free-to-play Pure, and PK'd there till about 2010, and then I became a member. Started risk fighting, watched a few videos, started making videos, got a Chris Archie feature, which kickstarted my channel, and then, of course, Old School came out, streamed that as well, mostly PvP. I've casted the DMM tournaments, contracted by Jagex. I've not competed any. I did do the All-Stars, was too nervous to get very far. But I still PK now, and I've also got a Pure Iron Man that's at the end game stage. And yeah, I love RuneScape, as we all do.
All right, good shit. So we're going to talk about the Gillinor Gazette. They made this news post a couple weeks ago. I get here. And in that... so with kind of where we're going to be with this, we're going to talk about the Gazette, and we're going to move on to like Soul Wars, Poll 70 blog, and then the like back half of the podcast is going to be, we'll be talking about the PvP stuff that they posted about. So they have they made a post about pretty much like PVM achievement diary, and what they stated was like, the idea is to have various tasks and challenges against bosses ranging from kill the giant mole without receiving any damage to complete the Inferno in under 70 minutes. So what do you guys think about like a PVM achievement diary, and what do you think some of the rewards that would come from this should be?
I think personally it's always a good thing to have things like that, like goals to try and achieve, and it kind of makes it a bit more interesting than kind of doing the same thing over and over. For rewards, comparing it to the normal achievement diary, you couldn't really do XP, I don't think, but it could be an option. But you could just do like a monetary gain if you complete the achievement or something like that.
I love the idea of this. Just achievement diaries in general. It's a really cool thing in RuneScape, but I don't think they ever did it really that well. They did it so many years ago now, and it was done by Reach, I think, at the time. They've not changed it since then, really. So yeah, I'm all for PVM challenges. I'm not really much of a PVMer. I think it's an awesome thing to give some players like a bit of direction and more goals to go for. As for some kind of reward, I'm not opposed to XP lamps, to be honest, but I don't know, man. Anything, I guess it'd be better if it was PVM related as well. But I don't know how that'd be balanced, really. But yeah, I like the idea. I think it's awesome. Encourage people to try different PVM as well.
Yeah, I really like the what would obviously be like more of the high end difficulty with the complete the Inferno in under 70 minutes as a challenge, where like it gives people something to like a good goal for people to go at, and I really like the idea of it a lot. And I'm sure that there's a bunch of other things that they could do with trying to get, you know, like on the difficult end of how they can do it. I mean, some of it could be like pretty heavily RNG based, but you know, it's gonna give people. I like the idea of it. Rewards, I guess, yeah, like XP lamps. With the achievement diaries, do we have like all pieces of equipment slots right now? Is it like
We do.
okay? I wonder what they could possibly give then. About so like Max Cape, you know, how that kind of acts as like a holy wrench. Maybe you could give it like a give an item that's like a holy wrench plus, and it gives even more of a I don't know, thinking out loud, but something
How do
like
you guys
that
think about
maybe.
cosmetics and stuff like that? Are you guys opposed to those? I haven't really heard your opinions on that kind of thing.
I think
Cosmetics are generally fine.
yeah, I'd be all good for cosmetics. Maybe give them a like a cape that could probably
Maybe a
work out
trip.
well.
You were saying about like the under 70-minute Inferno, something like a trim or something on the Inferno cape itself. If you finished all these really master
Ooh.
level
Ooh.
things, you know,
That's an idea there.
it'd be pretty cool, dude.
Fuck my holy wrench. That's an awesome idea.
But
Yeah.
it wouldn't. They should go like super over the top though. The master one. They should have not just only like a 70-minute Inferno, but like a 2-man TOB or something as well. Like some really end game stuff that only a handful of players are really that accustomed to doing, and you have to like really put the hours into actually to get there.
I think a trimmed Inferno Cave sounds spectacular.
Or even I know, I think it was back with the Fire Cape though. They threw around like recolors of that. I don't know, but anywho, I'm a huge fan of this, especially because this is more generally skill based rather than just time based to like get skills up. So that's why I love this. And then I know other things were like take no damage from Sarah, so gotta get your pro flicks on point.
That's sick. Yeah, there's so much they can do, isn't there?
Yeah. But yeah, also it's a little difficult with rewards. I'm a big fan of that, like just cosmetic for a couple things, or maybe it would be some other item, or not a pet, but something with like transmogs on it for a couple different states, or just something that just kind of represents PVM as a whole. I don't know, some with the skull. I don't know, whatever. Although no, that's more like P game. But yeah, big good stuff.
All right, so a working Soul Wars prototype. They discussed this on one of the, I think it was one of the Q&As recently, where they completed by the mods. I think it was Ed and Lenny said that they've got Soul Wars in like a prototype kind of working state to be pulled, and I would expect this to be on a future poll soon. But if and when it does get pulled, would you vote yes to it? And what do you remember about the mini game if you were around when it initially came out? And what changes would you like to see done to Soul Wars if it were to be adapted into old school?
Personally, I didn't play it that much pre-OC. I don't know why. I think I preferred Fist of Gothics because it was more like 1v1. I felt like I was kind of doing more. So yeah, I kind of had minimal playtime for it. So I'm not sure. I think I'll just skip that question, to be honest. I'd let other people decide if they wanted it or not, because I'd be happy either way, essentially.
All right. I don't really recall much about it when it did come out, but some of the stuff that I did some reading on it is that like they'd really need to put in like some kind of activity timer or something to prevent people from just like AFKing and abusing it to where it would then create. God damn, hold on. some certain account builds that might not be desirable. So maybe they need to put in some, different like requirements just to be able to do it. So it's better to be handled. But I think like the concept of it is pretty good. I'd support it if, with a few changes to it. I mean, if you don't do anything, maybe like similar to the activity timer, like in pest control. If you're not doing anything, you get no rewards, or you get kicked out, or something like that.
Or fishing trawler.
Or fishing trawler. I think that'd be the key to having it be a fun mini game that people are enjoying. Because like, as with like all content, you got to think about like, is it the rewards that people like from stuff, or is it the actual content that people actually like? Like like Stealing Creation, when people talking about how like they feel about that. Is it the content or is it the rewards? So I don't know. I'd vote yes to it though.
Honestly, for me, I actually enjoyed Stealing Creation as content, but yeah, the biggest reason people did was rewards. But anyways, Soul Wars, I think I'd probably also just skip it because I never played it. I don't care for it. I know they've already discussed like the rewards, like got the XP stuff because of what it could do. Also, yeah, I gotta make sure it can't be like botted or abused. But I'm not like opposed to it, especially because it seems like a lot of the work is kind of already done, so it wouldn't really be taking a lot of dev time. And plus, I had forgotten how big the team has gotten. We're like over 30 people now. So
I thought it was in the lower 20. Okay, go ahead.
I'm pretty sure it's low 30. Oh yeah, and then on the previous question, I remember in terms of rewards, you got to be really careful because you don't want to make bossing and such easier. There you go. That's it.
I was going to say, on that that topic of the team growing, I was looking at the news post recently, and the names at the bottom, it was just like so many J-mods that I just don't really recognize.
Yeah, I don't even
anymore,
recognize them all at this point.
Because I don't tune into the Q&As as much as I probably should. And then, yeah, it's grown so much recently, which I guess it's a good thing too, because it means more resources can be put into different areas, and it's not hopefully going to be a case of them having to decide between maybe PVM or skilling or PvP, and they can balance things out a bit better. On the topic of Soul Wars, though, I used to love Soul Wars. It was as a pure, especially back then, it was one of the best ways to train an account. Now, with the content versus reward thing that you talked about, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I would say that, like Manked said, it's a multi kind of situation. So for PvP specifically, it is just a big cluster, a big mess. But it can be quite fun too, and it's a nice opening, a nice way in for a lot of players to like get into PvP because it's quite casual, and it's also the same kind of PvP that you see in Rev Caves too, which is where a lot of people start out. As for the activity bar as well, so from what I remember, what you do is you'd go outside your little spawn area, and then you'd pick up like 20 bones, an inventory of bones that people had died for, obviously. And then you die again, or you'd walk back into the safe zone. And every legit 2-3 minutes, you just bury one bone for the entire game. And that would be your Soul Wars experience pretty much. And it was one of the best ways, if not the best way, to get stats up with no hit point gain, to be like a prod account, if that makes sense, like a glass cannon build with really high offense and very little defense. I'm a big fan of it, but I do have concerns as well that it could just be a case where, like you said before, people are just looking for the reward and not so much the content. If it's too easy just to sit on the sidelines and AFK, a bit like the pump method is in Blast Furnace that a lot of people use. And but I think overall though, like a new way to make new builds, to make more pures, or to get into PvP in general is nothing but a good thing. And the reward wise, like the XP used to be really good, but yeah, I'm for it. It's a nostalgic thing as well for a lot of people. They used to play back in that era, so I can't think of any negatives really, apart from like we said before, the potential to maybe abuse it and just AFK too hard for the best XP per hour. But I'm sure they'd realize that now and balance it around that.
How much XP per hour were people able to get?
Off the top of my head, I don't really know, but I'm going to guess like 60k to 100k, probably at the higher levels.
That seems more than I recall. I recall it like not being that great.
It might be 40, 50k, but I just remember seeing like loads of prod accounts back then. Obviously, that was a huge issue.
About it. Yeah.
So people would have like 99 strength and range and stuff with like 70 hit points. They've just AFK'd or botted away in Soul Wars.
Yeah. The way you talked about the activity with just like burying bones every couple minutes, that seems like quite a problem. They would have to do it a little bit different than that.
Pretty
I would think
fatally flawed.
yeah, I would
Yeah,
think
it
it would
is.
have something more to do with like actually being involved in the activities, like if you've been in combat within the past however many seconds,
Exactly.
or you've I don't even remember what the objectives were, but if you've
So
interacted with the objectives.
There was like a boss on each side. And you
Yeah,
had to, like,
there were the Titans,
fight.
and then you can fight
Yeah.
people or NPCs. But what was it at the center of it? In
It
the
was
map?
to destroy. It was to destroy. So you had to like get a certain amount of
Yeah.
souls by killing people and then put them somewhere into the middle, I think, or something like that. And then
Okay.
you'd lower a shield or something, I think. Or I'm not 100% sure. It's been so many years now. Then you have to
But
kill
anyways,
the boss. So it was like PVM combined with PvP.
Yeah. But anyways, as long as you actually are interacting with the major pieces of content,
Oh yeah.
then it's fine. I don't want people to just bury bones for activity.
No, absolutely.
They could just make that not count towards activity.
I think it's one of those situations where we have to really put our trust into Jagex that if it was to pass a poll and stuff, that they'd actually, balance it well. And I guess that's something that a lot of people would disagree with, and who knows what's going to end up happening. We'd want something that's obviously balanced. I
don't know. I think they care
that's what I'm
enough
saying.
to be. I think they care enough to be careful with it, because they even like brought it to our attention. It's
Mhm.
like if it was just a fun little, we can do this, then I don't know. They might have not even mentioned it, but it seems like they have some intentions with this.
One thing that I didn't initially think about with Soul Wars, kind of what you were saying, is that it could be a good introduction for people to get into PvP, which I think is a pretty underrated aspect that the content can provide. Because for some people, getting into PvP may be like, if they were to go out like Deep Wildy or anything like that, and just try to learn PKing like that, or just any kind of PvP that way, it's gonna be. I think it would be a pretty rough experience for them just trying to get to learn it. Whereas they can do something a little bit more casual, like in terms of Soul Wars, that would be a good way of introducing them to PvP. So that was something I hadn't thought about before, and I think is a real good point.
Yeah, a bit like how LMS works, and I think as well as that, with Castle Wars, obviously it's not as predominant as it used to be because of lack of updates, just in general, the rewards being minimal. But if Souls had good rewards as well, I think there'd be a bit of a competitive field being brought to the table as well, where clans would probably form and people would actually like maybe do some kind of big wars and stuff like that in Soul Wars as well. So I think there's a lot of potential with it, but it really comes down to how much commitment and time Jagex will be able to put in, and resources they can put into an update like this. Because if they just clone it, then there will be a lot of problems like we've identified. But it could be really good.
I'm a huge fan of more, but just in general doing minigame elo systems. That's something I love, because I think isn't the only one that actually properly exists the Rune Link, like the stuff in the games room.
I don't even know how that works.
Like there's stuff on the high scores for Bounty Hunter and whatnot, but
yeah,
I think
there's
LMS,
nothing really
but those are
competitive.
just points. It's not like an elo system.
And it's a time thing. It's just a time sync. Like more time put in
more
equals
time equals higher number.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't like that either.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So next, we'll talk about the Pull 70 game improvements blog. And so before we talk about that, first, let's talk about there being 39 questions on it. And I wanted to bring this up because like Sween was talking about it on their recent like remote Q&A that they did. That, like, do you guys think that 39 questions is too many for a poll? Just specifically the quantity of it. Is that too many for a poll? Should this have been maybe split up into like 2 polls or something? Because I don't know. In my opinion, I think that 39 is way too many. Like, how many people saw 39 questions and then just said, not even going to bother, and didn't decide to vote as a result of there being way too many questions? I don't know. Manked, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see that being quite an issue. I mean, if I saw 39 questions in a poll, yeah, I'd probably be disheartened by the end of it and kind of vote not really thinking about everything properly. But at the same time, I get they want to get as much information as possible from people, so that's probably why they did it. And maybe splitting it into 2 different polls, maybe they wouldn't have as many people voting on both polls compared to if they just did it all in one. But yeah, personally, towards the end of the poll, I probably wouldn't think that clearly. So yeah, personally, I wouldn't have that many questions in the poll.
I think that's the most that they've ever had in one.
Jesus.
I'd have to look through for that. I mean, there's still a good amount of people that voted on it, despite that many questions. It was like 51,000.
Yeah, it was a good turnout.
Yeah, on its face value, 39 does seem quite excessive, and I can see where you're coming from. But when you actually look at the questions, it's not that bad, since there's no major piece of content in there. It's mostly like quality of life, kind of like small buffs and tweaks. So that's not really too much of an issue for me.
Was this the poll where they polled the change to the new armor?
Which are you talking about?
The stuff from Nightmare. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah, I think it's within there. Yeah, it's down.
Yeah,
at the
that was the one thing that like
it's
stuck out.
that Wintertide, and a couple others, like a lot of small things.
Yeah, it does seem like a hell of a lot of questions, to be honest. I'll be honest, I don't vote, or I'm not as into voting as I used to be. It's mostly the topics that like PvP related that I super get into nowadays. But yeah, 39 questions. I don't know, dude. I feel like most people will just vote yes anyway. This is probably a different topic altogether regarding the poll system. And I feel like Jagex kind of know at this point what they can pass and what they can't pass. So they're very careful with the questions they ask, for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. For 39 questions, I don't know. There's not many people apart from really committed players like you guys and the high level player base that I think are really going to get into that and want to vote based on the actual blog on 39 questions. That's a lot to digest. It's a lot to think about, and a lot of people just won't be able to. Yeah,
Like,
consider all the pros and cons, in my opinion.
I think it actually works out decently with the time because of like them working remotely. This is more like smaller things to kind of focus on, because you still can communicate with the team for those big updates, but it probably won't be as cohesive as it would have been if they were all in the office face to face. That's just my thought.
Yeah, looking through, actually, you are right. There are a lot of quality of life stuff, I guess, in this poll particularly.
Yeah, I like, at what point do you think voting on the questions you would just almost like get numb to like reading it? I mean, how much are people actually reading the questions after like the 30th question? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there was one question in here that really upset me. Yeah. I don't understand if it's passed or not. It said, should we add the Keris and the bear heads to Purdue's shop, right? And it had 74% yes. But it was a bunch of skit. Oh, I did pass. Thank God for that.
You're looking at the website.
Okay, cool. Because I saw the
website just yes divided by 3 and Kino.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, because the SIG questions don't count as that. But I saw that and I was like, no way. People have spite voted to allowing viewers to get a goddamn cosmetic back again from Purdue. But
I'm still upset for you guys about the whole blessed chaps and van races thing. That was
so many situations.
Because people don't know how they worked in the first place. Because I think they should just repoll that, but specifically say in the question, hey, it doesn't already require defense for the normal versions.
It's very much how they word it. There's another example of that with the spiked manacles that came in a few months ago from medium level Clee Scrolls. That was a 1 defense pure item, but they didn't specify that it was 1 defense pure item. And therefore it passed.
I don't remember. They might have. But yeah, that's the big thing. I'm pretty sure that's happened at least a couple times where they pull something, it fails, they pull it again, but like word it better and it passes.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is crystal shards and crystal dust were pulled to be tradable. These items currently are untradeable and are only obtained through doing content in Prifdinus. So like doing like the farming or woodcutting or the agility course or even like volcano. The question on making them tradable with a 12k elk price failed. It had 59% yes. However, there is a question right after that, question number 9, which allows the shards to realistically be obtained in a tradable fashion. Pretty much, if you buy the seeds.
What?
Yeah, so if you buy the seeds, you can exchange them for shards. The shards are untradeable, but you can buy the seeds and exchange them. You can buy the seeds and exchange them for shards, which I don't like. So in a roundabout way, they are 100% tradable. So should this roundabout way of obtaining them not be allowed, since the question about them being tradable failed? Abra, I know you're big on the in the shard and seed game. Let me hear it.
Well, I don't have any seeds now, so it's not as relevant, but it was interesting seeing how much quicker this time around they spiked up than when, the quest first came out, because people didn't know enough. But anyways, I think the only problem here really is that they didn't realize that potential roundabout. If they only pulled 9, then it'd be fine. I am fine with the results of these two questions, how they kind of interact. The only little thing that happens because of this is there's less kind of I don't know. You when you have shards from whatever avenue, you have to use them. That's I don't know. That's interesting. But in terms of if you want to buy them, the only difference is the fidelity of which you can. It's only in multiples of like 10. You can't buy like a single shard or something. So it's not bad with that. But I like that being able to trade in stuff fast, because I think those items should have worth. The armor seeds don't trade in for enough for it to be worth, so they're not going to change in price, but like the weapon seed will go up. So it's nice having more reward from wherever you get the weapon seed, I don't even remember where all it comes from now. It doesn't come from Zulrah, it comes from Gauntlet and Stalkano, I think. But yeah, having more price on those is good, kind of like a mini floor. But yeah, if the actual shards were tradable, it would have been interesting that you could properly, without having the higher herblore, profit from doing trees. But yeah, and it doesn't impact me, because like I already have all the shards I need for mining. I don't need to buy them if I feel lazy. But yeah, I'm overall fine with this.
I disagree pretty heavily. I think that this is first, it's a very flawed question in that the question itself should have been related to like specifically on like if question 8 fails, or I'm sorry, it should have been like if question 8 passes, should you also be able to exchange it? So I don't like this at all. I mean, they're still tradable. I don't like it. It hasn't. If they can just override this, and they've done it before with a couple things where something has passed a poll and they've said, yeah, maybe we're not going to actually do that. I think they most recently did it a few months ago with that
with the tome.
Yeah, with like for magic.
Siren's tome.
Yeah, so hopefully they kind of look at this in the same way. Because I don't think that this should be allowed at all. It failed. Making them tradable failed. So why did the next question about making them still essentially tradable pass? I don't like it. Shouldn't be coming. It changes so much with Prif. Like obviously you get the shards so you can get the boost in XP while doing fishing, woodcutting, mining. If I never would have done the Prif course. I did like, I don't know, maybe like 40 mil XP at the Prif course just so I could get the shards that I need for 200 mil mining. I wouldn't have touched Prif if I knew that I could just buy the shards. I don't like this at all.
That is interesting, because it would kind of make it so you wouldn't need to interact with the content there. That was the whole point of like they wanted you to do the content to get the shards.
Yeah, I really liked how unique it was, and then like I know like for woodcutting now, obviously you got like the 1.5 tick on Fossil Island, but I know that there are some people that like do their woodcutting 2 tick woodcutting in Prif with the so they can get shards as they're going about doing it, and I don't know, man. I just don't like how the whole purpose of like drawing people to go in a strong reason to draw people to go to Prif and engage in the content there was so they could get these untradeable rewards. Now they can just buy them. I don't support it at all, especially since the question specifically about making them tradable failed.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. I found something really interesting. I wasn't going to really chime in here originally, and then I heard you guys talking about it. The other thing I would say is, but didn't they nerf Zalcano recently because it was just like considered way too OP?
Yeah, the drop table was dropped by about like 30 to 35% less GP an hour.
But
Part of
surely
it-
this would
Oh,
just like cancel that out, wouldn't it?
Not entirely, because
Was it not significant?
those. Yeah, I don't think those were a significant portion. Like they did overall decrease the GP that you got from it, but specifically the biggest issue of it was the mithril ore and chaos runes that plummeted and were used to trade in for Tuckle for Onyx.
Onyxes, yeah.
That was the
Okay,
biggest
fair enough.
issue.
Interesting.
All right, so just a fun one here. They have all these transmogs of the Tangle Root, the farming pet, all these different kinds here. Do you guys think that do you guys think that pets should have like all different kind of transformations like this? Like, should they continue doing this with other pets that are currently in the game? Start cycling through some of the ones. And of the 6 that you have here, which one would be your favorite? Just for how they look.
I'm trying to find the pictures now, but I can't find the different pictures of them.
It's on the document. You just click over transformations and then there's the link.
Oh, nice.
It took a few to load though.
Sick. Oh god, they look awesome, dude. I'm gonna link them in. Oh, you've linked them already into the Twitch chat.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of any kind of cosmetics for something that's, just kind of like following you around. So people love pets in this game, man. It's such a unique thing to get. When you get one as well, it's like, oh my god, I hit that ridiculously rare drop table. And you got the pet hunters that obviously just go for every pet as well. I have my pets in my house, but I still like looking at them, like my rune crafting pet, for example. I got a low level that I love. I think the best one out of those, I don't know, man. They all look so cool. I like the one in the middle with the, I don't know, it's like an afro kind, not an afro. What are they supposed to think? Like green little things coming out of it with the red dragon fruit tree almost.
Yeah, dragon fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. That looks pretty cool. His beard. They all got beards. Tree beard. I'm keen on anything like that coming to the game. I don't think there's any negatives to it, in my opinion, as long as there's not too much dev time taken up. But it's all artist stuff anyway, so it's not taken away from any content. Yeah, I'm keen to see more of it.
I don't know which I would have preferred. People originally were asking for it to be like kind of seasonal, so like spring, summer, winter, that type of stuff. But I mean, this is still okay. In general, I'm a big fan of more transmogs as long as they're like actually thematic and kind of appropriate.
Yes.
But I don't know. I'm not like a giant fan of these ones. Like, I guess out of these, the best that's not the base one would be.
Do you prefer the original?
I mean, I would say pretty much the original is best, and like second best is the Redwood. I don't really like the Anima one. The Herb one, I feel like could have had a lot more going on. The Dragon Fruit one is a little weird. Someone made not a drawing, but some sort of maybe it was a drawing of pretty much all of these. These ones came from the person's suggestion. The one that the other person made of the crystal tree looked better, so this one's a little, I don't know. Actually, I don't remember if this is which one this is, but I feel like they could have been a little better. But I mean, obviously, this is all optional, so I'm not going to be bothered. But yeah, they're okay.
I like the idea of it. It gives people more of an incentive to pursue the content, and I think that the crystal one looks the best. I'm not sure what the I'm not familiar. What is the very bright green one? What is that one?
That is the anima tree for in the farming guilds. Like there's the Eosor, Chronos, and whatever the other one was.
Looks like a white lily.
Yeah. On the top is a white lily. Oh wait. Oh no, you're right. White lily is just a flower. Oh, I thought it. Oh,
so is
whatever.
that not the farming guild one then, or?
I don't know. Whatever.
Well, all right.
I barely did farm guild stuff.
And I was like 200 mil before it came out, so I'm not really familiar with it. The crystal one I think looks best.
Do you guys have it? The Tangle Root?
Nope.
Yeah.
You don't?
Nah, I think I had like around like 100 mil XP or so at the time that the pets came out, which even still going like 100 mil XP dry of it is a lot. But no, I don't have it. I don't plan on doing any post 200 mil. I know that obviously you can get that you can get it really quickly. Now
like 15, right?
Yeah,
you need to get that tree bit.
Yeah,
man.
so
it belong in your house.
Dude, they cost a lot of money. Like, seeds ain't cheap.
True,
What is it?
actually, yeah. They are very expensive.
For which?
Isn't there like isn't the best one to get the pet from the seaweed spore or something like that? I heard.
Depends what metric you're talking about. Like obviously here, the best thing would probably be like real time, but fruit trees are all the same rate, so you just do like apple trees.
Oh, really?
Teak and mahogany have the same rate, so you do teak.
All right,
But,
no excuses now, Randy. Go
yeah.
get yourself
Well,
that tangle.
I guess
think I was
it's-
actually- I think
if
I was
it's-
probably the worst one to get Tangle Root because I went 150 mil dry plus 17 days of post sooner mill.
Damn. I
mean,
didn't
when
know that fruit trees all had the same rate. I guess like
Yeah.
like an apple tree seed is probably only like
They all take the same time to grow.
Yeah, that's like what 7.5 hours or something. You do like 2 or 3 a day.
For a fruit tree, it's 16 hours.
Oh, 16.
Oh.
Okay, well, daily runs then. There you go.
So-
You're on max.
For a
play.
magic, it's 8 hours.
an apple
You can
tree
start
seed
with,
is
like,
5
everywhere.
GP.
Mm-hmm. You can go get one.
Well, all right.
Do a cheeky
See, look,
fruit tree
see,
run
look,
every day.
look at that. It's good. We're learning things. It's good. So,
The best thing to come from this podcast so far is Randy committing to getting the tree beard on his main.
yeah, dude, it's like the crystal one looks pretty nice. I like it, and you can get it for it's okay.
Oh yeah, and
It's
then
something to think
I got two like extra pets from crystal trees when I was just getting shards. So that was a little bit of a slack to me.
All right, so let's move on to the Elite Desert Diary reward. So with this, so if you guys know, like if you have the Elite Desert Diary done, it teleports you to Narda, and it'll put you close to the statue, but like in the general store area, not too far off, like the little statue shrine area. But for this poll that and it is passed, is that using that will now teleport you right next to the shrine. It'd be approximately the same distance away from like if someone were to go from the pool of rejuvenation in a house. But this one does the exact same thing as the pool, but also gives additional like hit points to go like above 99. So it's better than a pool of rejuvenation.
It's only better for some things, isn't it?
I mean, it gives the same. It gives the same.
It doesn't give special though.
It does. I thought it did.
Actually,
does.
maybe it does. I don't remember.
It does.
I think
Yeah.
it might have been. I haven't used it since I was killing Zora way back when.
All right. So it's pretty much a pool of rejuvenation, but also gives additional hit points on top of that, above 99. So do you guys think that this should have passed the poll? Or do you think it's too OP? What's your opinion on it?
I don't remember how many teleports you have before Elite, but
It ain't much. It might be only
Yeah.
like 5
Yeah.
or something.
not enough to be really good. But because obviously there are still requirements on the Elite Diary, but I'm not like hugely bothered by it. Like obviously it's a couple seconds difference. So with that it's whatever. But I don't know. I just don't entirely like it. It's like I remember back before pools even came out. I remember there was discussion. I think at least you talked about it, Randy. About like to make the pool that you would need that diary done and use the amulet for the pool. I don't know. Yeah, it does seem quite strong.
I was thinking is it unlimited teleports for Elite, yeah?
Yeah,
Yep.
Elite has infinite teleport.
Okay, yeah. I was just thinking, by the time you complete the Elite, would you probably have the pool already? Yeah.
That's interesting.
You probably
because of
would, because the
Yeah.
requirements they're not low at all for the Elite Desert Diary. I'll look up the requirements here right now. And
I know you need like 85 prayer, kick you hedge, which has guaranteed at 256, but before that's RNG. So
Yeah.
you would theoretically need to do that many kills, and you'd probably want the pool to do that anyways.
well, you have to put a KQ head in your house,
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
that requires 78 construction. You could get the pool.
That's 4 levels off.
Yeah, you could get the pool, and like if you at 82 you use the boost, you can get it at 82. So I mean, other wrecks that you need: 85 prayer, 91 thieving, 95 fletch, 85 cook, 94 magic. I don't know. I don't like
All
it.
right, I'm not as upset then.
Yeah, that was my line of thought. I thought you'd have them both kind of unlocked. Well, you'd have the pool unlocked as you got the elite diary unlocked anyway. The +7 for HP. I mean, it could devalue anglers a little bit, but I don't think you really. Yeah, you don't really use that. You don't really need that, do you? Really for non-PKing stuff.
I think people would just start using that for PVM stuff that you would like constantly go between.
Yeah, yeah. To me, it's I don't know. It's not a end of the world if it did come through.
I just don't like
For
that
me-
this seems like it's a boost out of nowhere. It's content that's been in the
Yeah,
game for
that is
5 years.
interesting.
Like it,
Yeah,
Like, who asked for it?
This
Yeah.
wasn't needed. The pool is already incredibly overpowered, and
True.
I think that, like, you know, if this were to come, you know, maybe even during the first year of the achievement diaries coming out, that would have maybe been something. But it's been 5 years. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like it should have happened sooner, to be honest, if anything. I think it speeds things up from what I saw on Zulu's thread, because he was talking about it the other day on Twitter. He was saying that it resets like CM raids you can reset for Tecton, and any Slayer task that's not a couple of ones that he talked about, like Dags, I think, or something like that, because he's got the teleport in the same place. It's slightly better. With 7 HP, I agree with Manked. It's not really anything to worry about or think about. It's got higher requirements, like you guys mentioned. I don't know. I think it's fine personally, and I'm someone that can't get the elite diary in my pure either because it looks behind defense stuff. But yeah, well, it should have been done sooner, in my opinion. I'm not really opposed to it. I think it's more requirements and gives people more of a reason to actually do the achievement diaries and a better reward for doing them.
I think also a tiny difference as well is even if it is the same distance away, like loading into your house takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
At least they've
Like,
done a really good job cutting down on load times for that.
Oh yeah, no, that was good.
But yeah.
Do you guys have your house set up like super efficiently with only like 6 rooms or something? Or
Basically,
you have a
Yeah. Yeah.
of course.
Seem-
Yeah.
I've seen well, yeah, I know, obviously. I don't know why I'm asking that question. Actually. I've
the
been
room
seeing-
to where I'm gonna train is right next to the teleport. So is the pool. Right next to
I've
the
been
pool
looking-
is the glory and jewelry box stuff, whatever.
Yeah, I've been looking at like pictures of all the, like the extreme layouts and stuff that people
Yeah.
have, and
And
I
then
haven't
also
quite
like you
construction
have
level yet, but-
few rooms and you organize them such that you have the smallest grid space in the house for load time. Yeah.
There's an art to it. I like that.
Maybe one day I'll have a extravagant POH, but not anytime soon. You could really dump a lot of money into a house, like for all the
Get you 100 mil
man.
cash on table.
And like those, like the steel dragons, aren't they like 20 mil GP?
That's
5 mil.
5? I thought that there. I
It
mean,
might be more. Pre-EOC, I remember the best one was 5 mil because I used to get it to kill my character to lose my skull in my house.
yeah,
That's the only reason I had a maxed out POH back in pre-EOC, at least.
You know what they should add? There's already the 100 mil table. They should add a mounted crystal crown.
Oh, that would be
that way
pretty
you can't get it back and alch it.
Or
for partial return.
so it would actually be a gold sink.
A sink.
They should put it on the the cape racks that you've got. Like attach a crown to it on top, or get like halos attached to it as well, stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh yeah. All right.
Maybe once I'm done with construction, I'll just get a crown to fuck around.
Would be fun.
How much does it cost again? The crown?
250 mil.
Oh, that's
And
not
then you
too
can
bad.
alch them for 150. So
Oh, that's nice.
it's only technically, if you don't want any more, 100 mil loss instead. It's only 100 mil. Might as well put it on the table.
All right, so they had a question. It was called, should the combat level of the skeleton found in Restless Ghost Quest be lowered from 13 to 6? My question isn't about this one. I saw this as just being an awful question. But like, what is the most pointless thing they have ever added to a poll in your opinion? And where do you think a question like this would rank?
I
Like,
personally would love to see the data that they like drew this from to think, guys, look at how many people are dying at this quest. We need to lower the requirements or the challenge. Personally, to be fair, as silly of a question as it is, if there's genuine data that suggests that a lot of people quit because of this, as silly as it sounds, then I reckon it would be fine to change, because it's not like it's a game-changing event or really difficult or anything in the first place, you know? So, I mean, it does also beg the question whether they're just going to quit when they get the next hurdle, which is a tiny bit difficult, and if Jagex changed that as well for them. But, yeah, it is a pretty silly question. I personally can't remember. I don't look at polls that often. I'm like Ian, I kind of look at them if I think they're tailored to me. So if they're to do a PvP or something that I think is going to impact me. And I haven't seen that many silly questions in my time. But yeah, this is kind of it's a very weird question to see in a poll, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, this was quite the waste. I'm proud of the community though. They rallied together and this failed, so good on that. Yeah, it really wasn't needed, because again, you don't need to fight it. You can just run away. The only way I could see this making sense and me not thinking this is completely dumb is if they change the quest so that you don't just get the skull from searching the altar, that you have to kill the skeleton. Then I'd be like, okay, fine, that's okay. But I can't think of a ton of other like dumb questions. The one that springs to mind though is that they actually legit pulled, should we remove the green pixel from the construction icon?
Took my
Oh, yeah.
fucking answer.
Yeah, that is one that I thought of, but yeah.
There's not a lot of dumb questions in general.
Yeah, like questions like this is how we ended up getting up to 39 questions in the poll, man. I thought it was a silly question, and I've really got nothing. Abra took my response. Like, the green pixel is still on the construction icon. They actually pulled it, and it actually failed too.
Where is it? I'm looking for it.
They accidentally removed it once.
It's
so they
at
have
like
to purposefully put it back in.
It's at the bottom left, like of the saw, like the silver part of where the saw is. At the
My
way
immersion has been ruined. I'm quitting the game. I'm done.
Do you see it now?
I can't tell if it's my eyes, but yeah, I think so.
It's a poison saw.
It's
Yeah,
so
man.
small. It's so unnoticeable. What the hell?
So one pixel. It's in there.
It wasn't even in there originally by purpose, and yeah, again, they accidentally removed it somehow. They had to put it back in.
And then they polled, should this be removed? And it failed.
I think that was earlier though. The other stuff I was talking about was later.
I can't believe it.
But yeah.
So, my opinion of this one, when I first heard about it on stream, I thought people were joking and they were like trolling me or something. I didn't know that it was real. And then I kind of took the same approach as Manked, which was, well, to be fair, if they're looking to actually ask the community, can we change a skeleton? You know, people must be quitting. There must be some way of tracking it that they've realized this must be a big enough deal. You have to poll it. But equally, like, why? You're right. This is why when they poll stuff like this, it just puts people off from wanting to poll, to read the poll questions as well, and engage with it, because it's just so like I don't know, man. It doesn't bother me either way, to be honest. But if it was really that big of a problem, I personally wouldn't have minded if they changed it, or like you said before, made it so you had to fight the guy or something. That'd be a bit different. But I don't know, man. I don't really care, to be honest. It's one of those things. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm interested too if there is any data from that, or my thought is that it's kind of just future proofing it, that they're hoping that more people come and won't have a problem with it, like how they beefed up the Adventurous Path stuff. Like the people that have already been doing that stuff, they've surpassed when it's actually a thing. So that's more for new players. So they want the newer players to have a better introduction.
All right. So on March 16th, the mods posted that all the mods have been recommended to begin working from home for the foreseeable future. They stated there will be fewer game updates and fewer live streams in the short term. So they're all pretty much working at home now. And I saw that like Kieran, Ash, Sween, and Rock were talking about how they had like equipment moved like to their house so they could start working from home. And like Kieran's in charge of pretty much being the liaison from the old school team to Jagex on like what equipment they need at home and how it would better their work at home stuff that they're doing right now. But I don't know, with like they have a temporary shutdown at Jagex, everyone has to work from home. What do you think about this impact that it could have?
Well, first of all, I want to say I hope everyone that's listening to the podcast or at home right now is keeping safe and practicing social distancing, etc. It's a very serious situation we're in right now, and it really, really sucks. I'm really glad that the people higher up have recognized that and that they've allowed their staff to work from home, because I know from speaking to people that used to work for the company or that do work for the company, getting, working from home can be quite difficult at Jagex because of all their security stuff, I guess, as well, and they just want people in the office to have that team mindset together, working together. I think it's a necessary thing to happen right now, and the last thing we want is for some of these JMods to get sick and have a really bad way with it, or with multiple JMods getting sick that work in the office. Imagine the whole team like shutting down and they can't work from home or anything, and like there's no updates for a while or whatever. Or I guess that's what the skilling community wants, isn't it? No updates, but you get what I'm saying. I think it really sucks for us, like Manked and I in particular, in the PvP community, because we've been waiting for many years recently, and we've recently had this blog being put on the Gazette and talking about PvP, which we're going to get onto in a little bit, and all of that has kind of been put on pause again, which is understandable. I'm not like having a go at Jagex for that. It's perfectly reasonable for them to do that, but it's just bad time, man. 2020 is shaping up to be a really, really shitty year for everybody. But I'm sure they're going to get through it. I mean, obviously they've been dealing with the whole DDoS attacks and such lately on the servers, people not being able to log in. But regardless of that, they're still trying to keep the community updated. And in general, this whole coronavirus stuff has, at least for me personally, it's resulted in a lot more viewership on Twitch. The game's got lots more players because everyone's at home and has more time potentially, or just wants to AFK on the side and such. So for the games industry as a whole, I think it is, even though obviously the JVs have to go home and such, it is there's a silver lining in this crisis, and that is that our games, getting a bit more exposure and it's doing a little bit better, which is cool.
Yeah, we had 140,000 people online the other day, or 141.
We haven't had that many since mobile first came out.
Jeez, wow, that's actually insane. Yeah,
people are gaming.
We have a question next about more of that though.
Building on what Ian said, I reckon, safety first, obviously. And to be fair, I'd prefer fewer updates than no updates. Like if they said, look, guys, because of this, we have to shut down for a month. Imagine not having RuneScape working for a month or so. It'd be crazy. So yeah, I think just taking it slower is for the best for the long term.
Good point. Imagine, they update. Well, they did the other day, didn't they? Update something and then it all goes wrong because they're not in the office. They can't then get the running, and that's like the worst case scenario. So I wouldn't be opposed either to a few less updates, or at least nothing big, major content wise being pushed through in the next month or two.
Yeah, I think that this will allow them the opportunity. So first, like, great on them being, proactive and being ahead of, trying to limit any kind of exposure that they could have, to allow them. I mean, at this point, obviously, like, there's the whole, like, you want to come out with content and you want to make sure the game is continuing to grow and everything like that. But I think that they, understand that realistically for the next month or however long it's going to be, they're more so going to be in just trying to maintain where things are at rather than building upon and trying to grow and further develop. I think that it's okay if we have a slowdown here. There's nothing anyone can really do about it, but it'll allow them the opportunity to, I think, maybe look at the game a little bit more and see what area. So obviously, we have like the clan system coming, the PvP stuff that they talked about, and then like Group Iron Man. because those are the big things that they talked about at RuneFest. But I wonder if this gives some people some more time to kind of like analyze where the game's at and where some other improvements could be made, and they could they could maybe start like really putting together a good backlog of things that they could do to improve the game, given I'd assume the more free time that they have now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page with y'all. I mean, again, it's not completely a shutdown. It's just going to be a little bit slower. I'm fine with that in general. It's not that I'm looking forward to like tons of small things. You know, big things will still come eventually. Yeah, whatever they think is best.
Nice. And so maybe I should have placed these in different order to where this next question here would have been.
I didn't read that
Don't
next
worry
question. Apologies.
No,
I jumped right into the other one.
That issue on my end there. So the reason why this the order for them to work at home was done is because of the coronavirus. And how have you been impacted personally by it, and what do you think about the current situation with the pandemic?
So
anything funny, anything serious, or anywhere in between?
Okay. All right. Well, I guess funny first. I think when this coronavirus has hit, it makes you realize just how kind of depressing it is in a way that my life's not really changed from day to day.
Yeah.
Like I live at home, right, and my mum works from home as well, and my dad's just retired, and then my brother goes into the office. But apart from obviously the shopping scare situation where like it's quite hard to get food and toilet roll and stuff like that at the moment, and then my parents are quite worried because they're quite old, so they're high risk category as well. Apart from that, like I said, there's been a bit of a silver lining for me personally because I stay inside pretty much all the time playing RuneScape and live streaming and stuff. So I've had an increase in viewership and that, and I think as a content creator too, it's almost like a call to really pull my finger out and produce content and be trying to entertain as best I can every day, because for a lot of people it is a really good distraction away from the current situation that's going on. I mean, in England it's pretty scary right now. We're only a few weeks behind Italy, which was hit really hard apparently, and we might get hit harder. And then I guess for you guys in America as well, we've got some pretty dark times coming potentially. But I'm just glad we've all got RuneScape and the internet in the age we live in today to be able to entertain ourselves. Because if I didn't have the internet and I didn't have RuneScape, I would be going pretty crazy right now.
Yeah. So first, I like how I've been impacted personally. I had a vacation in April that has now been canceled, which I'm very just a victim of the situation. Nothing anyone could do about it. But I was really looking forward to going on vacation there. And as rapidly approaching a wedding date here in 10 weeks, hopefully shit can get figured out before then, so my wedding doesn't get pushed back. But that's kind of like on a personal level. On like a funny like, why are people hoarding toilet paper, dude? I can think of 100 ways I can wipe my ass. What, like?
You guys have bidets over there in America?
What do you mean by that?
Bidet. It's like it's a South American thing.
It's not big, but I like the idea. But no, it's really not big over here. It should be.
I'm not familiar with it. I've had.
It's like
it sprinkles water
like
on your ass.
It's a sink for your cock, basically.
What?
It sounds wild, but like if you ever experienced one,
it's like a water fountain.
It's the most hygienic way to basically clean yourself after going to the toilet. It's just not that popular because obviously it's just not something people really are that aware of.
There's actually some history to why it isn't, which is interesting to look into.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, well, 2020 was the first time I've actually decided to go to the gym in about 3 years.
Yeah, about that.
And that was 2 weeks ago, and then all of this started happening. And I was at the point in my life where I was like, you know what, I'm going to change a bunch of stuff. And then 2 weeks later, everything's shut down and stuff, which a little bit unfortunate, but I'm sure I'll have the same energy afterwards, hopefully. But yeah, no, it's a pretty surreal time going to the shop and having to queue around the corner for like 15, 20 minutes to be able to actually go into the shop. And yeah, seeing nothing on the shelves is pretty crazy, but I'm sure we'll all band together and, make it through. Yeah, nice, crazy time to be alive.
That's something that I forgot to mention as well. After Randy said it as well, I completely forgot. Actually, I was going to go to a stag do in Prague for Aiza, Ben, for his.
I
stag do.
saw his tweets.
Yeah,
Really
so
unfortunate.
So he paid for everything for that, flights and everything, to like take him away and with his friends to surprise him. He didn't know he was going, and then that had to get cancelled obviously because we weren't allowed to fly there. And then as well as that, we have TwitchCon as well, which I was going to meet a bunch of my viewers from and my community from, and I was looking forward to that too, going with a bunch of other streamers as well. And like I said before, I'm kind of quite isolated already, like being a streamer and that, staying inside all day. And my girlfriend's long distance too, so that's a bit of a pain. I can't see her for a while, but yeah, it does suck. Like I was looking forward to finally being a little bit social, like you guys were saying, and getting a few things done and real life stuff. But I guess it's got to be left alone for just a few more months now.
Yeah, so it's not the biggest impact for me as well. I'm kind of similar, but it has been kind of annoying. So interestingly enough, yeah, before grocery stores open, seeing the lines out of them is crazy. But yeah, like I cataloged in a thread on Twitter like all the empty shelves and stuff when I was going grocery shopping once. That's kind of annoying. I can't always get all the things that I need.
That's wild.
Really,
Let me just interject here. I have seen I've gone a couple times here. I've not seen like a shortage of any kind of supplies when I have gone. I've gone to like Pick and Save and Aldi's, and I'm I guess very blessed that they're stocking our fucking shelves, because I don't know what I'd do if I was seeing like the shelves that you're seeing at like the places you're going.
It depends on the day.
That's wild.
Like right after they stock it, it lasts for a little bit, but if they haven't stocked very recently, yeah, like more than half of the meat was gone. Like there was no beef, no chicken, but toilet paper, whatever. But besides that, like I haven't hung out with a friend in a while, and I was recently trying to put that together. It was like they don't think it's a good idea right now with everything, so that's kind of annoying. And also, if I want to go start gym stuff, I can't do that. I just went to a little restaurant or whatever you would call it, cafe, like yesterday or whatever, and I got my stuff, but I couldn't have it there. They literally put all the chairs to the side. They're like, "Yeah, we can't let you sit down," so I had to take it home. That was interesting.
Wow, they put out
it's a lot of just like minor inconveniences that kind of add up. Oh yeah, and also like a lot of places that aren't deemed essential are closed. So like I still go to work. I can't do anything remote, because I stock shelves and whatnot.
Do you guys have a statewide quarantine yet?
Not a quarantine, but it's like gatherings of more than 10 aren't permitted. Non-essential stuff is closed.
Damn. We 3 days ago, our governor put out a statewide quarantine. To where
we haven't had that yet.
If you're not working in basic like necessary functions, like
banking, food, some other kind of services.
Yeah, and it doesn't impact me. If, still streets don't close, so I still got to be out there. But there's been a huge. As I've been patrolling, I've absolutely noticed there being a huge decrease in people. So like I was saying,
it is. There's way more empty on the streets and on the streets and like on the sidewalks of people actually being outside.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's just been such a drop in like people walking around, people driving around. So people are taking the quarantine seriously, and they are staying safe at home, not trying to expose themselves or other people that they come in contact with. So good on people, the 99% of people who are taking the quarantine seriously.
Yeah, there are still cases you see of like people having huge gatherings, and it's like, oh, come on.
Mate, England is I don't know, man. It's only like I think in the last week or so maybe people have been taking it a little bit more seriously, but leading up to it, like we've just had really bad weather as we always do in England over Christmas and such and winter.
And now you have sun, and now it's happening.
It's just started coming out, and now because everyone's got like working from home and such, and people are told, and certain offices are closing and everything. People just treat it like a holiday, and the weekends they're like gathering in parks and going to the seaside and all this stuff, and it's really scary that people are treating like that. I'm really glad to hear that my American friends is getting serious over there as well in terms of the way you guys are proactively reacting to it. And I was speaking to Martin Kemp Q the other night, and he was saying like California's just like completely a lot of it's shut down.
California's shut down, quarantine.
That's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, and I've heard that there's a possibility of like where I am, like kind of the counties would be on their own, and you wouldn't theoretically. It's not the case right now, but it's like not be able to travel between counties.
Yeah, we'll see how it kind of evolves here over the next like 30 days. Like at the end of April, I'm gonna have to make a decision on like if our wedding is still like going to happen at that time or not. We talked to them all, and like they were at least very understanding, and like we had to put down like deposits and shit on like a bunch of, you know, like deposit for like the location that's hosting it, deposit for like the rehearsal dinner location, deposit for the food and shit like that. But deposit for the photographer. But they every single person's been very understanding, and you know, if it were to get delayed, they either by our decision or like the like by the governor or something like that, then everyone will give us our deposits back. So it won't be it won't financially suck. It'll just like realistically just suck.
No, you just gotta have the perfect E-date wedding. Just stream it remotely.
Longbridge Church on there.
That in VR chat.
I would my book of rights start praying to Sarah Dovin.
I would not be opposed, but can't say the same about her. That
does she play RuneScape? Have interest?
Fuck no, fuck.
In the
hates it. She hates
oh, really? Yeah, my girlfriend too, to be honest.
Oh yeah, it's like I don't know how you can play that stupid game. You've just been running in like I've been training agility, you know, for the last like 8 months. You're just running in circles. How's that fun? I'm like, well, hey,
number go up, brr.
Yeah.
I've loved the Reddit with that stuff. But now the biggest thing here, like obviously, you know, social distancing helps out, but the biggest thing is just like sanitation. You know, like properly wash your hands often. Try not to touch your face. It's hard, but try not to. Like I've seen a couple videos like that touch on like hand washing and whatnot. Like Mark Grover had one on like the transmission and like washing your hands, and another one they use like black paint as a stand-in for soap to show like how well it actually is. You got to be thorough, man. Like I didn't realize until that I really was not that thorough with how I wash my hands.
Oh, I'd bet like 99% of people aren't thorough enough.
Yeah, get the palms, get between the fingers, really get the nails, the back, the wrists, get everything. The thumb goes ignored.
Informational. Tweet it out.
I wonder if after this is all over, if like in general,
people will maintain those.
Yeah,
habits.
like because cleanliness would potentially be like higher because everyone's like scared of getting ill on that.
It is actually
things like
the most important thing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's gonna like result in just normal flus and colds reducing afterwards.
It should.
Probably.
Because people are being way more careful in general.
I think Corona has I don't remember what the terminology is, but I'll just use the letters R, basically a transmission of like 2, and typical flu has like 1.3. So like, this is much worse than like in terms of transmission than a flu, but yeah, that kind of habits would really help in general.
I'm very curious what the impact, like the long-term impact of it. So, you know, not everyone can work at home. You know, I see, you know, there's people who still do.
Unemployment is crazy.
Well, yeah. But like there are like certain jobs that, you know, like regardless of if there's a pandemic going on, like can't work from home, like Abra stocking shelves, you know, like fucking, and like vets, doctors, nurses, all that other like healthcare shit, police, firefighters, things like that. Like there still needs to be people like actually physically going out there. So, but all these office jobs, like my girlfriend's an accountant. She's been working at home for 2 weeks, and I mean, she's a little bit less productive because, you know, she doesn't have, you know, like bosses walking around and it's like, oh shit, I can't be on my phone. So, you know, a little bit less productive in that aspect. But with like these office jobs, I know like a lot of people who are working at home and going about their work and, you know, without really much issue. I'm wondering how, and like we can even kind of point at Jagex, how much of an impact do you think this is going to have, like, on just the global world with like working from home? Like, will there be a huge increase in that? You know, there's
So
a lot to think about
If
because
there's,
they
I think if there's
mentioned
decent results, the more people would probably end up working from home. Like companies would realize that it's actually viable.
well, yeah, and I saw like Jagex was Kieran was talking about on their recent Q&A thing that like with all the people that are working at home now, like that, you know, is kind of opened up the eyes to Jagex that they may be able to hire people like
Like in the
internationally.
US.
Yeah. So like to where it's not limited to where like people are forced to relocate.
Oh, that'd be great.
So, you know, I'm just this will have like the whole thing is gonna have just so many like long-term impacts on everything. And that's something to
Oh,
think
shit.
about there.
That's a tiny thing I just remembered as well. I was supposed to have like another dental cleaning, whatever dental thing on Tuesday, but that's been indefinitely canceled because it's not like an emergency procedure.
damn, reminded me that I got my hair cut like just before I was meant to go away for Ben's. So at least I got that done before that all starts closing down in the next 3 months. We're gonna come out of this looking like we're cavemen or something.
We're gonna have a lot of like shaggy looking haircuts
Yeah.
going on over like the next month in the world. Gonna be a lot of
Okay.
bad hair going on. All right, let's move on to the PvP stuff here. So they had the news post. It was called the PvP status update, and with that, and I'm just gonna read kind of like word for word what it is that they said on the post. So it says, "Return of Bounty Hunter. We remove the content because of the level of abuse it faced. It will return with the potential for abuse reduced as much as possible. We expect this to be the earliest content to arrive." Hopefully around the end of this month or early April. Obviously, that was before, you know, everything that went on. But what are your thoughts on a return of Bounty Hunter, and what do you think could be done to it for it to be improved?
Okay, so the problem with Bounty Hunter originally, for those that don't know, it was just ridiculous GP per hour, and that was a result of the hot zones, which would triple your points that you'd get. But it was meant to like kind of encourage people to go to deeper wilderness into all these places that people wouldn't normally PK, but it didn't. Like people didn't want to go there anyway because it was just too dangerous, wasn't worth the reward, or not enough people would go there because the community's not big enough, and so it was just done by real world traders and people wanted to boost and just make lots of money and bot farms, etc. So I assume they're going to be gone, the hot zones. I think I don't really think they can really reduce the abuse unless they start to monitor it. And when I say monitor it, I mean like have the anti-cheating team actually looking into accounts, like scoping the world, looking around, because for months and months, years and years, even Bounty Hunter, it's not policed at all. Like the high scores as well, for example, the Iron Man high scores, which I was going to go for, the top like 10 ranks, a lot of them were just boosters that were making hundreds of mils on their Iron Man, immoral Iron Man, because they just wanted to
Dump it into construction.
because why not kind of thing, because they weren't getting banned for it. I look forward to BH2 returning if it does, because there's a huge community for it. It's not something I personally was like super into because of the lag in the world in general, but there was a huge community of PvPers that really enjoyed it and went for ranks, etc. that weren't Iron Man as well. I don't know. I don't think it's possible personally that they're going to be able to police it 100%, and I fear that they're going to kind of ruin it, the profitability for a lot of legit players as a result, trying to balance it around the bot farms and around the boosters. It's meant to return, like you said, next month, early next month, in the next week or two. But with what's been going on, I really do expect a postponement of the update, and I wouldn't be opposed to that either, because I'd much rather wait and then get a proper BH return rather than have it come back, be completely wank, and then get removed again as a result from another Torvesta video or whatever.
That's so funny that was what really kicked it off.
Yeah. It was frustrating. This is something I can tell you as well. So the Torvesta thing, we were complaining about it for months to Jagex, a lot of us as content creators, and because we realized just how bad it was, and just it's impossible to get any change, right? So I messaged Torvesta and I gave him an outline of something that I hypothesized. Just it wasn't that I boosted myself. It's just understanding the mechanics. I wrote out a guide on how you could boost with a couple of accounts, and I projected that he'd make a few mil per hour. And it was a lot more than that because he actually tried it out, obviously, made the video. And that was the only really way to get them to listen and to and to have to actually take action, which we didn't want them to remove it, to be honest. But imagine if that was left unchanged for like a year or 2 years, and people were just going about farming billions of gold every month. It would destroy the economy pretty much.
It's literally genuinely a problem.
Yeah.
Classic Torvesta. I think Ian and I are going to have very similar thoughts for a lot of these topics. And my thoughts on the removal of Bounty Hunter is the bots boosting or people boosting stuff that does need to be monitored. Otherwise, legitimate players will never be able to profit properly from PKing. I think the main problem PKing has faced over the last couple of years is the lack of rewards. And the second, I think, rewards are added, obviously people are going to try and abuse it. So the only way to kind of make it fair for the people who want to play fairly is to have someone keeping a close eye on kind of what's going on. And whether that's just someone having a mod every now and then running through the wilderness and seeing where people are, that could be the difference, in making it a good update.
I think the bottom line is you can't balance content around the potential for it to be botted or farmed, because every content will be botted or farmed if it's good enough. Look at Zora, for example, and it goes unnoticed for years and years, really. It's just with BH, because the requirements to actually get into it were so easily doable. That's where it became like a serious problem. Yeah, I don't know, man. They have to put more resources into the anti-cheating in general, just as a whole. It's a different topic altogether, but I know I've spoken to you before, I think maybe Randy, about AHK. I'm not too sure it was you or someone else in the skilling community, and how it's just gone unmonitored for the whole of old school RuneScape. Like PvP high risking, for example, has gone to the stage now where you're literally fighting 90% of robots and people that have clients that auto spec for them, auto Gmaul if you get the right XP dropped, auto triple E on certain threshold HP. It's because they're all reward trading to make bank from it. So I think there's a serious problem in the game in general where there's so much black market stuff that's really going unmonitored, and Jagex need to really catch up with the times, because they've not really, in my opinion, put enough money and resources into maintaining that infrastructure of anti-cheating, and they need to, and it's long overdue now. I don't know what it's like for skilling for you guys, but I've heard rumors that people use all kinds of things for skilling stuff.
Oh, they certainly have.
And just,
I don't know how it is
get
now.
away with it because, like I said, it's just unmonitored and
right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of also the same. Like, I know people enjoyed BH, but with the problems that it had, I guess it was kind of a necessary thing at the time. But should it come back, it really needs to have its issues fixed up. I am also not the most sure about how well that will actually go down. So I don't know. We'll wait and see.
I think that bringing it back is going to be pretty good. I've said before, like if I were to ever get into PvP stuff, it would be like through Bounty Hunter, having some kind of direction what to do with it. So, getting those Bounty Hunter kills, I think would be fun. I do have a maxed peer that I made 4 years ago that I've done nothing other than log on to make sure it's not hacked.
My God.
Yeah.
Go play it.
Yeah,
Get when BH comes out. I want to see a PvP stream from you, man.
Yeah,
BH
man.
returns.
60 attack, 1 defense, 99 strength, hit points, magic range.
1 defense, better pure than me already. There you go.
Well, I think you'd still take me out pretty quickly. Stats aren't everything, but in the situation where if I would ever want to get into PvP, I made it a few years ago, and that would through Bounty Hunter would be how I would do it. So I like the idea of it returning. Hopefully they're able to just make whatever necessary change that it is to make sure that it isn't as fucked as and abusable as it is.
It's a good synopsis.
It's a difficult one for them, and I think I just think realistically there's going to be people that are going to be disappointed because legitimate players might not make as much money, or it might not be very profitable for them, or it might be a bit not very balanced because of the botting and stuff. But I think overall it's going to be delayed. Personally, I think we're going to have to wait a few more weeks, at least maybe a month or two. But I hope I'm wrong, because a lot of people miss it.
This also makes me think a little bit of how you're talking about. We were talking about mini games, about the actual content versus the rewards. Though, it's should the incentive like have to be monetary for people to want to do it, not just because they enjoy it.
I think they're not mutually exclusive. I think you
I
can
mean,
have both,
you're
and they
right,
want to aim for both. And it's a hard balance to strike.
I think just kind of more useful items that people would actually be willing to risk. I think that's a lot of the problem, is that people aren't always risking much.
Yeah. So the BH system, what made it good for a lot of players is that it was obviously generated gold, which also causes the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem. There was like direct like cash.
Yeah.
But it's like allowing pures to actually do stuff was nice. Like, thanks for the dehyde.
Yeah, well, IPK now it's like because all the supplies have gone up in price over the recent months.
Oh yeah, 1.2k
so
shards.
Yeah, 16k for like a super restore and a super combat. So like
that's so annoying.
An inventory of supplies when you have a fight. If you use the whole inventory up and no one dies, you're spending like 60k, maybe 70k.
People that coupled with the open looting bag, maybe people will actually start picking it up.
Yeah, but it's just really hard to profit for pures mainly. But I mean, half the problem there is that there's just not enough incentive to want to risk more because there's no real benefit to having items that
if only they
might
had
risk a little bit more.
If only they had blessed traps.
if only we had the +1 prayer, that would be the difference we're looking for.
Nice 200k plus risk or something.
Right, so one of the next things that they talked about was the removal of PvP world. In that they said that with this change, they're trying to solve the fragmentation of PKers. We understand that PvP worlds offer hotspots with convenient fights in a desirable combat level bracket, and we'll do our best to offset this by creating similar hotspots in the wilderness. So, do you guys support the idea of removing PvP worlds, like with the intent of pushing people into the wilderness, or do you think that they should stay? I mean, like with me, I feel a little bit indifferent on it, but I think that, them like removing these worlds is trying to push people into the wilderness, and as we go about the whole document, like their whole goal is to get more people into the wilderness, get more things into the wilderness, and with that being part of their goal, like I understand what their plan is. So I if I were to vote on this, it would maybe be like a skip question, but I like that it's like part of an actual goal that they have, not just something that they're just saying, let's do it. Part of the plan, so I don't know.
I don't have like much stake in this either. I don't PK. The big issue I see is indeed the kind of combat level brackets. That's why this is an issue for me a little bit. Talking about hotspots in the wildy though, I wonder exactly what that would entail. Like if the brackets that you could fight in were expanded upon, then I guess it would be fine. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of PvP worlds.
We'll be talking about like later on. We'll be talking about clan wars and last man standing. But I think maybe moving, like an idea could possibly be having one of the like in 15 wilderness. That would right next to a safe spot. There's something you could maybe do with that.
Right. The other little thing that's going on with this, it's been interesting because there are some content creators who have PvP series, like Sea Engineers, Iron Man. So that'll kind of just make that account dead.
They've legit 1-0'd Sea Engineer, haven't they? In my opinion, that's the best. That's the best series on YouTube. One of the best series out there because it's just so. Every time you watch his videos,
Jagex is gonna get the 1 bill.
Yeah, exactly. It's Iron Man progress coupled with like the intensity of what demo mode had, which is you just never know when you're gonna get hit and stuff or what's gonna happen, and it makes every single moment, whatever you're doing, really exciting. So personally, I'm a PvP world PKer over a BH PKer or a wilderness PKer. I've always enjoyed PvP worlds better. Several reasons. One is the plus or minus 15 levels, the PJ timer itself, which allows you to stay in combat and promote 1v1 fights for 10 seconds. You can't just get hit by teams and single clans constantly. The easiness of banking, like it's really quick to get into fights. Everyone in the world is PvP. You've got the adventure stuff that like Framed does or Sea Engineer does. I think there's a lot of good that comes with PvP, and I understand what they're trying to do here. To bring, because the PvP is so fragmented and all over the place, lots of different communities. I think what they forget here is why is it fragmented, or similarly like why is the PVM community? Why do some people enjoy doing a certain type of content, or going for like bosses, or some people like going for PVM drops, or some people like just like doing raids, whereas others just like doing Slayer bosses and stuff like that. That's something I think they're forgetting and not really seeing. There's a lot of people that just play the game for those PvP worlds or for that style of PKing. And I think not forcing, you know what I mean, like trying to bring everyone together is just going to upset people. It's very hard to please everybody. So I'm personally opposed to this. I'd really like to see PvP worlds remain, and not just remain, but be given updates. So whether that's like straight loot table updates, upgrades that like give you a rare drop table, or change the rare drop table to being way better. See, there's like some kind of benefit to being in a PvP world, or I don't know, or having the looting bags. Obviously, already you can use those in only hotspots right now. If you use looting bags all over the place, I know it would change a lot of metas for the main game and stuff, but I think as a whole, PvP needs to be reincorporated into the game. You know, you've got PvP, you've got skilling, you've got PVM. Those are the three blocks that kind of make up what this MMORPG is. As a whole. So I don't know. I'm personally against it. I really like PvP worlds, and I think they're making a big mistake by trying to reconsolidate everyone into the wilderness, and it can end up, to be honest, being the final nail in the coffin in a lot of ways. I think update the wilderness, update PvP worlds, but don't just try and put all your eggs into one basket, so to speak. Just try and fix it.
That's
Go the wrong way about it.
Interesting thing to think of is like the whole notion of risk. Like I know a lot of places for PVM or skilling or whatever are full, so some people risk it. You know, PvP worlds, like imagine going to Nightmare or just like wherever and you can actually get killed. It's not just free open world.
Yeah, exactly. Like the DMM, dude. Like that's another thing that I always look back on. I think they could have done so much better, and they never really hit the potential of DMM. I know that Randy played it at one point a little bit for fun, but if they found a way to really like make the game mode or some kind of PvP mode that made it really beneficial for like skillers to have fun there or have some kind of extra reward. I'm not talking XP reward. I understand you guys don't want any XP things to get too high, or to have a straight XP buff in certain worlds because then you feel forced to go there. But I think GP incentives, or rather like some kind of just reward for the risk associated for PVMers too. It just promotes a different style of gameplay, really, and there's a lot of people out there that want to play the game like that.
Yeah, I think for a lot of that, obviously, Ian's covered it. Originally, I was up for the idea of consolidating everyone into the wilderness, but then I think I read like an essay that Framed put, and it was along the lines of what Ian said, and it kind of made. Yeah, it was quite a long-worded message.
Do you have a summary or anything?
Pretty much what Ian said.
Okay.
The uniqueness of
so
PvP
hard
and
it's so hard to like concisely talk about these separate issues because there really is so much to it. It's not simple.
Yeah.
Sorry for going on a bit. Sorry, Seb.
No, it's all right. No, it's fine. Yeah, so it was basically just I read that and kind of heard what he had to say, and I thought, okay, no, fair enough. PvP is kind of in its own right. It's its own identity, and removing it, I don't think you could really replicate that in the normal wilderness. But yeah, giving it updates, I think it could be their last resort. If they give PvP worlds updates and all of that, and the wilderness updates, and nothing changes, then it could be a resort they have to fall back onto in the future. But for now, I think they should probably keep them. Yeah.
It really depends what those updates are. Like, I kind of like the idea of like rare drop table stuff. Well, technically, that should just be a general thing. Rare drop table is not good. I think it should be improved in general. But that kind of incentive is kind of weird because you got a similar situation to how the wilderness is right now, where I think PvPers should, you should be looking to fight people who want to fight you, not just fight people who aren't looking to fight. And it's that really weird. I don't know.
That's a whole conversation. Also, yeah, that whole conversation completely different.
Yeah.
That's the next question, I think.
Is it the next question? Oh, okay. I was going to say I was going to jump into that, but I'll let you.
Similar-ish.
From the guys who the PKers that you guys have talked to, do most PKers, are they against the removal of PvP worlds?
It's very split, so it's
Yeah.
probably about half and half. But I'd say that's simply because, like, so I'm a PvPer, so I guess I could say I'm biased because I prefer PvP worlds personally, and I think there are a lot of PvPers that have their own, like I just said before, different style of PKing, whether that's deep wilderness, where they like tri-breeding, where everyone just uses brews, or if it's an edge style fight, or Dalrock fighting, or risk fighting, which doesn't have overheads, and you don't obviously sit on 115 HP all the time, whatever. There's so many different types, and I think a lot of people, when that first came up, were maybe selfishly. I'm not trying to take digs at people, because that's how you vote in polls. That's how you vote on things that you want in the game. But they wanted stuff that would benefit themselves, as opposed to thinking big picture, I think.
Oh, who was it? Back in the day, I think it was Archie. The whole "that's just how I like to PK."
What's
Dealing
that?
with
Oh,
about people
raggers.
ragging.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just how I like to PK.
Yeah, I hate that. But I think it was a very mixed opinion. Yeah, and I think conversations like this podcast has been, where we kind of talk different ideas. That's something that I think is kind of, even though there's always the forum for it on Twitter and on the Q&As that they have at Jagex. I think for PvP, there's never really been a place for that to happen, to be honest, because a lot of PvPers, like I said before, will either kind of think quite selfishly, or they have like it's just so fragmented. You know, that's the problem. There's so many PvPers from different areas, and it's very, very difficult to please everyone, especially when they have limited resources, which have kind of not been put on PvP for many, many years now. So everyone's kind of desperate for their own updates, and everyone just wants the game to be good, whether that's nostalgically or whether it's for exciting new content or awards or whatever. It's a hard balance for them to strike, man. I do feel for them.
All right, so let's talk about the next thing that they posted about, which was restricting wilderness access to specific worlds. They said that, again, we're trying to solve the fragmentation of PKers. Hundreds of game worlds have been Are there hundreds? How many are there?
Definitely not hundreds. Although they have recently added like maybe at least 10 worlds, like over 2 different times, because of more people playing right now.
But
we had, when it first came out, we had like 300 to 400, didn't we? And then we got the 400s, and now we've got the 500s.
Oh, you mean the world number, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like the world numbers, yeah, it was like 3. It was. I don't think there were any up to 400 or whatever that got expanded once, twice.
All right, but getting back to it, while we could reduce their number, that would have adverse effects elsewhere in the game by exacerbating competition for things like bosses and resources. So what they'd want to do, or what they want to discuss, is limiting the amount of people that can access, or like pretty much only say half the worlds are able to access the wilderness. The other half just have no wilderness access at all. You guys think good idea, terrible, or anywhere in between? Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I personally think it's not the greatest idea, simply because if you have limited worlds, for people trying to PVM, it means they're going to be found easier. So they're just going to die a lot more often, which then in turn reduces the amount of profit they can make, which will then in turn, it will literally kill off that kind of food chain. And then also for solo PKers, yes, you'll be able to find people PKing more often to actually have like actual fights like you were talking about. But then at the same time, you'll literally just get teams finding people within a couple of minutes. So you might not necessarily be able to have any 1v1s anymore. So I think Ian has talked about this in the past, but potentially having PJ timers just in regular wilderness would encourage.
We have a question about that on here? I swear.
No, sorry. In general, just on one of his streams, I think, or talking to him. I think in the past it's always been looked down upon, because obviously if you have PJ timers, it becomes very difficult for teams to fight other teams, because it becomes very easy to survive if you know what you're doing. But at the same time, if you want to increase PvP activity and people actually fighting each other, then giving people the opportunity to actually have 1v1 fights without the fear of getting PJ'd might encourage that heavily. So I think it could be a step in the right direction to add a PJ timer to regular worlds. But then again, there is a community based around that wouldn't like that, so it's a difficult subject.
Yeah. I agree with what Max said again here. We're on the kind of same line of thought. If you reduce the worlds, then you do increase the chance that you're going to find people, but it also means that bossing becomes more competitive, and it's not like they're offering to increase the GP per hour that you're going to make through doing things like revs, because they're already pretty high. The worldy bosses, for example, are pretty unbalanced already. They are looking to change that, I know, at some point, but it would just result in people having even more risk with, apart from revs, not very much reward to go into the wilderness, and as a result, you'd find teams that would just hit you constantly, and then you've got another situation where there's different communities that are fragmented, like the singles teams who have always played the game around this 3-second PJ timer, where even though it's single-way combat, they can instantly, attack, and it ends up being like a multi-war, but in single way. I think it's a bad idea personally. I think the best way to get the wilderness active again is with just good all-round updates that promote better reward for the risk for being in the wilderness, and then organically you're going to have people going to the wilderness that are looking to make the money, and then as a result you get new PKers that start to kill them, and then you get better PKers that start to kill them, and then you might get clans that start to kill those better PKers, or clans that fight other little clans, and that's like the ecosystem and that RuneScape's wilderness has always kind of operated around. I know that a lot of people, including yourself, I think Abra just now you mentioned, are opposed to the idea of using players as bait in a way, or like the way to make it active is with like noobs going in. But
Creating a
like I said,
hotspot.
I think, but I think that is the baseline of what kind of made the wilderness so good. Like even back when the Gal brothers first brought out the wilderness and such, Deep Wild was the only way to get like the Rune Helm best in slot at the start. I know the game's obviously changed a hell of a lot since then, but that's what, for me at least, and for a lot of players, it's always made RuneScape what it is. That wilderness and that excitement of having that PvP that's so iconic and so different to any other MMO, where like you kill people and you get the stuff that they get. And so there's always got to be that risk versus reward aspect taken into consideration, whereby even at Revs, for example, has done so well. I know it's maybe a little bit on the high side from the since all the Venezuelans just sit there and make millions per hour, and obviously got the total level worlds as well, which are pretty crazy. It's a pure gold injection, obviously. But with the right uniques and with the right balanced updates, I think the wilderness could be huge. I think that's what they're trying to do again with this with these updates, is just bring it back into the trifecta, like I mentioned before, of PVM, skilling, and PvP, where each has got a foothold in the game, and each has got like their own important aspects, and it's not a case where I feel like I'm forced to do this, for example, but it's like if I want the extra reward, or if I want an alternative way of doing this, a bit like with Priftiness that you were talking about earlier, where you could go there to then bank. It would be like worthwhile to do that content, because then you'd bank, or not bank, but you'd make the mining faster, you said, or something, the shards.
Yep.
I like that. That's what makes the game interesting, the MMO, because there's all these different ways which you can do things, and it's not simply a case of everyone follows that same formula where everyone just wants to get maxed and then do the same thing at the end game or whatever. There's so much uniqueness to RuneScape and so many different directions you can take. So, long story short, I hope they don't reduce the worlds, because I think it will just negatively affect that potential that they have of organically just making the wilderness good, and that'll bring in players by themselves.
I don't think that they should restrict wilderness access to specific worlds, but I do appreciate that this is like part of their goal of just getting more people, like similarly to the removal of PvP worlds, is that they want there to be more people in the wilderness, and if you restrict how many worlds are able to access it, then you're, I guess, artificially, making it appear that there's more people in the wilderness, but
just the concentration.
Yeah, but I think that
less overall.
It would have on top of like the PVM stuff that talked about, like Black Chins would get to be really rough. The altar, the Chaos altar, it would just not be good in that aspect. So I don't think that they should do this. No.
Yeah, I'm also not really a fan at all. Indeed, kind of just make wilderness better, and it'll sort itself out.
All right. So one of the things they talked about was removing high risk worlds and replacing them by very high risk worlds. So dying on those worlds would result in the loss of all items, regardless if you're skulled or not, to create a risk heavy and exciting opportunities. What do you think about this proposal?
Could theoretically be good because right now high risk is just you have all of your stuff, your 3 items that you keep, and then you basically just like keep your spec weapon in most cases. But here it's like guaranteed risk. It's quite interesting. There will always be risk. I'd be interested to see how it goes, but I'm really not sure how in favor of it like actual PKers are. So I guess we'll hear about that.
Sorry, was that me?
Yes.
I'm not. I don't know. I don't mind personally. So as someone who has risk fought a lot over the years and such in PV worlds and stuff, doesn't really change or affect me that much. I think it could be confusing potentially for a lot of people in the wilderness if they go in there and they're always expected to always keep their free items at least. At least with the high risk world right now, it grays out the protect items, so it makes it very clear. I think this could potentially be negative because a lot of people would maybe hop to these worlds and be like, oh no, I didn't know I was going to lose everything. I've lost my free items that I meant to protect in every other world. And then it just, again, breeds further hate for the wilderness in general or PvP in general if people that don't want to be there necessarily or are going there and don't think they're going to lose their items. I don't know what really pushed this, to be honest. I guess some people will get annoyed by unscullers and that in the wilderness or in PvP, but I don't really mind that much, to be honest. It doesn't really affect me too much. It sounds interesting, but I don't think it would change that much. I think it could potentially have a negative impact more so than a positive one.
I don't think there would be that much confusion about that because right now already, if you try to hop there, it gives you the message like, "Are you sure this is what happens here?" And then you'd be like, "Yes, no, yes, don't show me again." So as long as they reset that variable, I don't think that's a problem.
I personally feel there's quite a few people that don't like. There's still people getting lured in this current year, you know.
There are.
So I'd say that it would probably be one of the biggest negatives from it. Overall, I don't think it actually changes much at all because if you're PKing, you're going to be sculled anyway, so you're going to lose everything anyway. It would only probably negatively affect people who are unsculling that are killing, PVM stuff or. Yeah, I don't think it would really change that much. So personally, I don't think I'd want it in. It'd probably just end up encouraging luring because of how different it would be compared to all the other worlds.
Yeah, I guess like hearing what you guys had to say about it kind of changed my opinion a little bit. I thought that it would be something that would be a little bit more fresh for PKers, but you guys make some pretty good points talking about how probably wouldn't change that much in actuality. So, I mean, I would say like if they throw one world in, I don't think it's really hurting anything, given that we have as many worlds that we do. Talk about people getting lured, but yeah, the guy in the chat says right there, you can't balance around noobs. Like if you're out there, like something like that, and obviously this is only like if you die, like if you're just like PVMing, like outside of the wilderness, it doesn't really matter because I'd imagine your stuff would still be there for the death mechanics. But like for the wilderness, if you're hopping around in the wilderness, you gotta, you should know what's going on with the world.
You should. But I think it's really interesting, actually. You know how earlier we were talking about that skeleton thing, where they're going to change it from level 6 to 13 to make it easier for noobs. But then on the flip side, they do something like this, which, like Manked and I have said, it could potentially like lead to loads of people getting lured or loads of people losing their stuff and getting really upset and quitting. I know that obviously the game.
If it was PvP worlds.
Yeah, if it was PvP world, it'd be probably quite a big issue too. I guess if in the wilderness, yeah, you're right.
Wilderness luring isn't as big.
Don't bring stuff in, but
as PvP world.
Because the way I see it, if you literally think what the difference is between a high risk world and a very high risk world, currently you risk everything if you're sculled anyway. So this literally only impacts the people who are unsculled.
Exactly.
And that is pretty much just PVMers. And they're not, well, they might be bringing good +1s, but if they knew this, they'd just be bringing black d'hide anyway and wouldn't scull. So you'd pretty much be getting
you'll have higher risk even if you're not in a fight yet. Because now people will have more incentive to rush you.
Yeah, it really doesn't change much at all.
Okay. All right. Here. So on then to the moving of clan wars and last man standing into the wilderness. They're, from what they said, they're currently quite out of the way in the desert. We'd like to move the lobbies for these mini games to the wilderness, like when Clan Wars was introduced in the other RuneScape. The lobby would be a safe area, reachable via teleport, and likely positioned to the west or southwest of the Graveyard of Shadows. Our intention is to create a new hot spot of activity in the low-level wilderness. So, what do you guys think about them trying to relocate it? And I don't know if they're saying like both the Clan Wars and Last Man Standing will be in the same location, or if they would maybe separate them. I mean, I know that they talk about West Southwest Graveyard of Shadows. I don't know if that's putting them both there or not, but I don't know. Either way, what's your opinion?
So there's stuff here that we gotta be careful what we say because we've heard of their ideas for what they want to do with those pieces of content as well, or updates that they've not mentioned in the blog. So I'm gonna try and keep this brief so I don't accidentally say the wrong thing. I think I like the idea of putting safe zones in the wild. I think that is awesome. For example, back in pre-EOC, we had two major hotspots, which I loved, which was Fog, Fist of Guthix Bank, which was level 9 wilderness or 7 wilderness just north of Varrock, which basically it was in a multi-way combat zone as well. So it meant that a lot of clans, and back in my peak era of enjoying PvP and RuneScape in like 2008, 9, 10, in VH worlds and PvP worlds, it was just always really busy because you could walk outside, there'd be lots of fights going on. You could join your clan and then it'd be like a quick pit stop almost to like bank, get supplies, and then go for another little trip around the wilderness. So they wanted, where was it again? West southwest of the Graveyard of Shadows.
Yeah, where it was before, pretty much.
Yeah, so
do you know what level wilderness that would be approximately?
It's like 18
17, 18, yeah. So I'm looking on the map right now. What I suggested to them was, I don't know if you guys know the phrase Sperm Hill. You go to clan back in the day.
No.
Look at the, I don't know if you're in RuneScape right now. Look at the
Oh,
minimap and go to Karalanga, which is like level 20 or something, where the Chaos Altar is, like northeast of the Chaos Altar. And there's a big lava. There's a bit of lava maze there, right? And it looks like a bit of a sperm on the minimap, basically. I'll try and take a picture of it on my client as well and put it in the Twitch chat for those that are watching live.
People peeking all horned up.
Basically, east of that place there is the Green Dragons, right? Which obviously is like a hugely botted area. So Clan Wars used to be just west of that, north of that Laren's chest that's there. And that basically acted as a hotspot because it meant that people would, like, noobs would go to the Green Dragons, and then noob PKers would kill those bots, or they'd kill the noobs that were trying to kill the Green Dragons. And as a result, better PKs would kill them, and there was a multi-zone there as well, so it would be clans peeking around there too to get easy kills on low-level PKs as well. I love stuff like that, like Mage Bank as well, make Mage Bank good again. Putting little hotspots, little places to bank. It also means that, because right now a lot of players are like feel forced into the wilderness because they've got no way of really fighting back or no real way of standing a chance versus PKers. But if there were these places that you could bank, and it wasn't literally a situation where if you're level 40 wilderness like at Callisto and you get TB'd, you're 100% dead, because what are you going to do, run all the way down to level 1? Like, I guess that's part of the risk versus reward of being in the wild. But I would love to encourage or have more ways where PVMers would be able to escape and would be able to fight back, and it would more so become a fairer fight in a way. Because right now I feel like they're at a very big disadvantage when they get hit by a PKer because they've got supplies on them and they've got nowhere to really go. So I'm in favor of stuff like this in general. I think it's really cool. This one in particular, the place they've mentioned it, I don't know if that one would be that great. I mean, there are Green Dragons just north, I guess, which might work similarly to the ones, but there's already a Karalanga teleport, so people can get there pretty easily anyway.
Do you think that they should have Last Man Standing in one location and Clan Wars in another, or do you think that they should both kind of be tied into the same safe spot area?
I mean, yeah, they could put them in different places. Like I said, the more the better, in my opinion. More places to escape for PVMers and such, and make the wilderness not necessarily like safer for everyone, but just fairer. So, like, if you get hit by a massive team, if they're going to keep the instant PJ mechanics the way they are, it's not a case where you're getting TB'd and having like 50 people you've got to tank. It's a case where you've got to survive for a few minutes without dying, and to get to the closest like hub, so to speak. It would completely change the wilderness and how it works, but I think it would bring more positive than negative, and it's a better way to really please everyone, as opposed to straight up putting in like a 10-second PJ timer, for example, which just completely nullifies any kind of single team content and such. Just an idea.
I really like this idea. I think that it's like more so than the like removal of PvP worlds and restricting access. Like this, I think is a much better way of like getting more people like naturally into the wilderness and have a lot of more positive impact on the game. With the area that they have in it, you know, being around like 18 wilderness, you said, you know, that almost is like creating that same bracket that like PvP worlds give. So you can kind of see like what the whole like plan that they had, you know, that I got like, let me like whether or not PKers agree with everything that they're coming out with, like you can like clearly see based on all the ideas that they have that like everything was kind of like together, like, and you know, all ideas were intertwined with each other and based off of, you know, because like they wouldn't put this out in that location if they're, you know, PvP world wasn't part of a suggested removal. So they're trying to emulate that there, I think is a good idea. But yeah, getting these out there is good. I think maybe an idea, and let me know if it sounds awful or not, is so maybe put one of them in the, you know, Graveyard of Shadows area. Like how awful would it be to move one of them to like lower level but like be in multi-combat wilderness, because I recall that like low level Varrock wilderness for a brief period many years ago, there'd be people PKing there. Like would it be awful to have something like similar to that, like almost like a mage bank feel but in multi-combat?
I think it depends, really. I used to Varrock PK for years, and it was one of my favorite types of PKing for years as well. And yeah, the Fist of Guthix thing really did encourage that. So maybe having something similar to that, quite low wildy, could encourage it. But at the same time, if they put it in and then no activity resulted from it, then they'd probably want to move it pretty soon, because the whole benefit of this is it allows people to tank to certain areas, essentially. So they could have one somewhat deep wildy and then one at the Graveyard of Shadows or whatever. But they have to be really careful with balancing, because if you're okay at tanking and you only have to tank like, I don't know, like 10 mini-maps or something, you should be fine. So they have to be, yeah, it's going to take a lot of careful planning to not make it too OP. So no one dies, if that makes sense. Because these days it is very easy, if you've got a bulwark and some decent tank gear, to just chuck on melee prayer and just run and just sip on brews and be fine.
What do you think about my suggestion, so about like rather than putting in a straight up PJ timer, like having those escapes and such? Do you think that would potentially, like you mentioned a minute ago about the bulwark and things being really easy to get away, maybe that would also result in further rebalancing to make them not as overpowered, because there would actually be reasonable escapes, whereas right now things like the bulwark, they are overpowered, but it's like the only defense people really have against singles teams. I don't know.
Well, it's funny, when I read this about Clan Wars and moving it to the wilderness, I was thinking this is like an alternate adding a PJ timer, because it makes tanking teams a little bit easier. So yeah, I do agree with what you said, and I think it would be pretty good as an alternate for that. Just depends on the positioning.
I'm still quite undecided. Like I hear the potential positives, but for me, like the biggest thing would just be able to quickly get to a good spot to fight and whatnot, because it's not just a safe area that we're talking about. It's a mini game. Like I think you should, be at the area of a mini game to do the mini game, and it's not like in the actual wilderness. It's still, segregated, safe. So what's the point?
True.
It just seems like it would be mostly interacting with green dragons.
Yeah, it's like an artificial way of putting people into the wilderness that potentially don't want to be there again, which might result into further like luring and stuff. People just want to play the mini game, but now they're in the wild.
Yeah, like remember that like the stalling is a thing. People get lured like that in PvP worlds already. Like they look like they're one place, but they've actually moved. I feel like a lot of people are gonna get lured from that. I don't know if it's going to be a net positive. Like, again, I hear the potential, but
You get lured, you deserve it.
well, I mean,
Yeah, there's some fair points.
All right, so I took out 2 questions on Last Man Standing. We're gonna move to this next one here. That's on the redesigning of bosses. So we're not happy with the quality of bosses such as Callisto, Vedion, and Venenatis. We'd like to give them actual mechanics and relocate them to suitable areas. We envisage a winding series of tunnels and chambers connecting the bosses with various cave entrances in the wilderness overworld. Increasing the challenge offered by the bosses would also pave the way for buffing the drops and rewards offered. So that was their thoughts on the wilderness bosses. Do you think that the bosses need redesigning like they are like this, or do you prefer them how they are now? And other than this one, would you have any other suggestions for how to redesign them? And how do you just
Okay,
feel
so-
about the bosses in general out there?
So my experience with wilderness bossing is kind of limited. I've done probably like 700 kills at Venenatis in my Iron Man with crossbow, which is pretty broken. It's really easy to safe spot and very safe. I've done a bit of Callisto in the past, again using the safe spot or just going there and multi. But there's that one that spawns the skeleton
Vetian?
dogs. I've never killed that because that looks crap. I've done a bit of Chaos Fanatic when that came out and got 24k C pet. That was fun. I think a lot of these bosses, like, obviously they want to, I guess, make it more worthwhile to do and increase the drop tables and stuff. But the thing is, people have camped these bosses for so many years now, and
it's a little too late, right?
it's almost a little too late, yeah, because they've all got pets associated with them, which like is part
6
of the
years,
pet hunting
6
grind
years
and stuff.
old content as well.
6 years now, my gosh. So
And there's enough in the economy that it really won't change as much as as
yeah,
it could if it was new.
I would prefer to see. I wouldn't mind a little bit of rebalancing on them, but I think too much and like basically redesigning them would have more negative effects than positive for a lot of people. I would prefer to see them put that time into actually developing new bosses, to be honest, to add new content to the wilderness and increase more locations to go to, create more hotspots, and create more uniques and more interesting stuff. I think at this point it's almost too late in a way to redesign them because of how long they've been out, like we said before. And I'd much rather see some uniqueness, like some new stuff coming in. To be honest, it's hype and more interesting. That's my opinion.
That was a good point about like kind of being a little late for that, but at the same time, I still think it's a really good idea just because of how broken they are. It's not very good content in its own right. I think they should definitely try to make sure that they can't be safe spotted, and I would love for to see it actually be used. Like the tunnel idea, that's interesting, but I know a big thing would be like it might be a little ugly, but obviously they have to be in semi-square rooms to avoid safe spots. But y'all remember back, I think it was like 2014-ish, maybe 15, I don't know. Alfred made a little tunnel for Venenatis that they were thinking about doing this way back then. That'd be nice to see that be used or something like that. I think the Venenatis one would be moved to the Spider Hill up in like 40 Wilderness with the Sapphire spawn.
After reading a bit of Twitch chat, to be honest, people like reminding me that there are those stupid random one-hit mechanics that are
that's
broken.
Also a big thing.
To be fair,
I hate that those are a thing, like for Venenatis and Callisto, that it just has random one-hit stuff.
Yeah, for those, I mean, at the same, I said I'd rather see new bosses, but at the same time, I think if they were to like remove
you can't
mechanics
just
like that,
ignore stuff like this.
if they slightly rework them and change the drop tables slightly and such, and like if it's still around the same kills per hour for the people that are doing things like pet hunts and stuff like that, doesn't devalue them, then by all means, yeah, sure, go for it. I just would prefer to see, like I said before, new bosses there other than an entire redesign and rework of the current ones. But
yeah, something interesting to think of though is having them reworked in such a manner that skill comes more into play. Like obviously not guaranteed damage because first of all it'd be more enjoyable to do. I think you'd really benefit from being good, not just RNG or whatever. But that would also kind of incentivize staying longer, and you'd have more risk on you. I think that would be healthy.
Yeah. With what you guys have said, it ties in perfectly to what I was thinking. So I love this idea, and my thoughts would be, Theatre of Blood. There's the spider, I think it is, and it
Nice.
changed.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you have to change your style of attack, and I think if they did something like that, so you can outplay it, and you have to use different types of styles to kill it. That could be really good because then you could, for example, if you went in Tribrid to go kill it, you could kill that, and then you could hop
also
a world.
fight people that come to you.
Yeah, you
That's
could kill
interesting.
people who can't try and compete with you.
Yeah.
Then you could go back to killing it. Everyone could do it. I just
And
think
you're
it'd be really
always susceptible to some sort of PK.
yeah, and you can also protect yourself as well, So I think that could be a really interesting idea that they could perhaps do, and that would eliminate the random hits. You could actually fight it properly, get your prayers right, and get your gear right, and you're fine. I think it'd be really interesting.
Big brain Manked.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's unfortunate that they have been in the game for 6 years and they have been essentially broken for the whole 6 years that they've been out. So like the random one-hit KOs suck. The idea that the actual most efficient way of killing them is by like safe spotting them, and in like some cases I know for like Vedion you have to like lure it to a certain spot to where like it's like not really even safe spotting, but it's just like standing there motion, just not attacking. You're not really safe. So like there's a lot of really, really, really bad mechanics for it. And yeah, I think that they should be updated, but at the key they need to when they redesign it, try to make sure that the amount of kills per hour are still similar to what they are currently. I mean, I know that they talked about, possibly buffing drops and rewards. I think that increasing the money is fine, so long as the kills per hour are the same,
Yeah.
for pet purposes.
Yeah, strong agree.
All right, next we got.
It goes a little into like the intention of how they were originally come out was that they were supposed to be like they roam the wilderness. It's just an issue of like their wander range and like their aggro range, how those work together. That's why those safe spawnable. Like, although you could tweak that and that'd be a little bit of a fix, yeah, again, just rework the whole, yeah.
All right, so the next thing that they talked about was the Wilderness PJ timer. They said we understand we understand that lone PKers would likely want a Wilderness PJ timer added to single way combat areas, whereas PKers and clans might prefer it to remain as it currently is. They're open to implementing one, whether in the whole wilderness or just in certain areas. Do you guys think that they should add this or not? Should it be like in certain areas or not, certain worlds or not? What kind of feedback you guys got?
So for the longest time, I have been of the opinion that single way combat should promote single way combat, and it should be 1v1 predominantly. At the same time, I understand that, like Manked mentioned before, there are a lot of players that solely play the game to like single clan PK and do single run-ins and kind of PK with friends. It's an MMORPG, so I understand that. I think either way, whatever happens here, you can't please everyone. It's a really difficult situation. I think by putting it on some worlds and not others or whatever can become convoluted and become a little bit confusing for some players too. But if that's what's going to happen to please everyone, then albeit. I don't really PK Deep Wilderness, to be honest, and the reason I don't do it is because of the clans. But I guess I'm a streamer, so because I'm streaming, I'm at much higher risk to get stream sniped, to be hit by teams and stuff. I guess it's not the same for the average player. But I do believe that having some kind of elongated PJ timer to give solo players a bit of a better chance to survive would overall increase activity and increase enjoyment for everyone, because more solo players wanting to go Deep Wilderness and wanting to go to the Wildy in general to PK means more people PKing, which means more action for the clans too. So it does benefit everyone, in my opinion. But trying to get that across to the single teams that solely want to continue their single way PK that they've done for many, many years now, quite rightly, that's what they play the game for, fair play. It's a difficult one. I really don't have a concrete answer to this of what is the best thing for the game, to be honest. It's a really difficult one. I think Manked's got a better probably understanding than I do, since he does a lot more Deep Wilderness PKing than I do recently.
I don't know. It really depends. Yeah, if overall for the game, potentially making there be a PJ timer would be better. But I mean, if they put it in half the worlds, for example, what you'd probably have is PVMers going to the world where teams can roam around because there should be less PKs, and then the individual solo PKs that want to PK and fight other PKs going to the PJ timer worlds. So it could kind of work if they had it as 50-50, and it might make PVMers happy because they might get attacked by normal PKs less, and it might make solo PKs happy because then they can actually fight people without getting PJ'd by huge teams.
Have like
But
even separated by evens and odds, like worlds.
yeah, something like that. I think they could do that, and it could potentially work. But I know every time this topic's come up and I've suggested a PJ timer or anything like that, a lot of the teams
Lose
aren't very
their
happy with
shit,
it.
dude.
Yeah,
They, like,
so
take it so personally, like you're a moron, you don't even PK and all this stuff. It's like you only want this to benefit yourself and all that kind of stuff. Like as a streamer, you just want to be able to not get attacked by teams and stuff. That's the wildy, just deal with it. It's the way it's always been.
yeah, it's kind of I see it now as if you want the wilderness to stay the same and just solely 20v1 people, fair enough. But if you want the wilderness to like have more activity and actually fight people, then I think a change does need to happen. But then again, it could the change of having clan wars and LMS in the wilderness could change that as well. So
there are so many factors, aren't there? Like I personally do believe that the lack of a PJ timer, or rather the instant PJ mechanic we've got, is partly the reason why there aren't any solo PKs left in the wilderness. But then there are so many factors, obviously, like you said about the different hotspots and stuff that could potentially increase activity. That maybe that's more so the problem why the wilderness is dead. It's all down to interpretation of different opinions and personal opinions about it. So it's a really hard one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like an elongated PJ timer as well. I'm very much in the same mindset as you in the whole like single PKing means single PKing. I think if you want to still be able to do that, you need to risk people not being stupid and like being like, hey, if they're trying to do this, maybe I can try to log out. Like if it's only like slightly longer than the logout timer.
Yeah.
Like imagine you have like a couple ticks to log out before they trade.
Yeah, I think as well, like even if there was a slightly elongated PJ timer, or if there was a 10-second PJ timer, or whatever it was,
yeah, it would be like 11 or 12 at least.
Yeah, there would always still be a big advantage of having a team. Like that's not going to go away. Like PKing with your friends and having a TBer or having people that can hit NPCs is always going to be more beneficial than solo PKing. It's just right now, and for many years now, it's just been too much advantage with single clans, which is obviously, like I said, potentially resulted in the lack of people wanting to go deep wilderness and solo PK because it's just not at all solo friendly. But yeah, like we said before, their rebuttal is, well, that's the way the wilderness is. If you don't like it, don't PK.
I'm just really not a big fan of that kind of play. The whole single clans doing that. I really don't like the idea. It just doesn't sit well with me.
I just thought for Deadman there's a PJ timer, isn't there? So that PJ timer, you still get clans like falling into people.
It's still really beneficial.
And it still is a big thing in Deadman mode. So maybe that's a good example of it could actually work, because you have basically one tick of freezing someone and hugging the tree to log out. So you still have to be skillful to escape people to an extent. But I think it could actually work.
All right, good stuff. One of the other things that they posted about was onboarding for new PvPers. They said that they'd like to introduce a tutorial type piece of content for players who are new to the wilderness or in mini games like Last Man Standing. They'd focus on introducing players to concepts like switching gear, attack styles, and prayers. Do you guys think this is a good idea, or do you think that a tutorial of such like this would be too hard to teach, and that PvP should more so just be learn as you fail?
I watched when LMS came out with their updated version. I watched so many PVMers doing it and absolutely loving it, and they were actually pretty good, and they stuck with it and got even better. And I think if they did have something like this where you could fight a bot that automatically changes prayers and stuff, and you have to do it correctly, otherwise they'll beat you. I think that'd be quite good, and I think it would show people the potential fun you can actually have with PKing. Because in the past, I feel like so many people haven't had the opportunity because they've been so focused on being efficient and getting to their favorite PVM monsters that they haven't given it a go. So I think something like this would be really interesting, and it could encourage a lot more people to actually do it.
Yeah, I fully agree. I had one of my subscribers in the chat earlier mentioning about how much I like the Nilo boss. So in TOB, there's a boss where there's like all these little crabs that what are spiders, whatever they are. They walk around and you fight a big boss that I think it's 12 ticks or something. It changes form, and it can only be the same form twice, and the color corresponds to which attack style you can use and which attack style it uses. So like mage is blue is mage, green is range, and the grey one's melee. And you've got to obviously preemptively change your overheads and then change your gear as well. And you get like 2 hits in or whatever it is. And it's this cycle. And I feel like PvP, PvM, and skilling are so obviously it all operates on the same, tick system, the 0.6 second tick system. And there's so much similarities between that trifecta of RuneScape. And through playing my Iron Man, I've learned so much more about the game, like learning to preflix Sara or learning how to do TOB or even skilling methods as well. Like I did a year or 2 ago, I started doing Hunter, and I never really enjoyed skilling the game. I'll be honest, I'm not like the biggest skilling fan still, but I remember learning the 3-tick Hunter method or the 1.5 or the 1-tick one when you like place down the trap, then walk underneath it quickly, then click it, then move away. And like I got hooked, and I was going to do like a 6-hour stream. Ended up doing like a 25-hour session of just catching chinchompers out of nowhere, dude. Legit. And that was like, there was that moment where I was like, so this is why people like skilling. and then I got that with PVM as well. When you start learning like PVM methods and you want to be tick efficient and you want to like do things on the right game scene, when you do it and you're learning it, you see that improvement. It's such a nice feeling and such a sick sense of achievement. And I think so many people haven't tried it in PvP because there's such a hard way in. Like no one really understands. There's so much to it. Whereas with skilling or with PVM, because everything follows the same pattern, it can be understandable very easily, a lot more easily, because you kind of when you get it because it's always going to be the same thing. Whereas PvP is always different. You got to be like doing what your opponent, thinking about what your opponent's doing, etc. It's all dynamic. I think if they grew on things like the Nilo boss and or even like incorporated some way of like the tick manipulation stuff, like in skilling, that was because that can be done like PvP too, like switching like freeway switches and stuff like that. I think if they can find that way of bringing PVMers or bringing skillers where they identify that it's very similar, and they realize they get the same satisfaction from doing it, that's when they've like got that golden lottery ticket kind of thing. That's when they've broken through, and that's the hardest, I think, part for anyone trying to get into different areas of the game. It's that there is just no way in. It's kind of very much you've got to just learn it. And I know for us, obviously playing the game our whole lives, we've had many years to practice, many years to get into it, and to master all of these different techniques. But for new players, unless they play for years, they're just not going to get it. So I'm all for them putting dev time into making something like Nilocus bosses that teaches hybriding or teaches the understanding. Because like very, very similarly actually to skilling, for example, like the crossbow and the mage spells are all 5-tick cycle. So it is very similar, like skilling, where like you get into this pattern of what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and then you've got to like kind of think like, what's your opponent going to do? Or are you going to be able to fake them out before your bolt is about to hit? And it's really interesting how similar they all are. I never really realized that until I made my Iron Man and got really stuck into that. So yeah,
I think Narcolis are ticks. Funnily enough,
you think what? Sorry,
they're ticks. Funnily enough,
are they?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I really love this idea, and I think that they should put a lot of effort into this, because I think that for people to get, like, for me, for example, I can't imagine how many times, like, for me to just get to an adequate point of being able to be a PvPer where I'm not dying to every single person every single time. Just like the learning experience for that would probably be so awful that like I and probably other people that are trying to get in, would be trying to get into PvP would just be completely turned off because of how difficult it may be to get to, like, because there are, I mean, so many PKers that are just so fucking good. Like if I were to get matched, meet either of you guys in the wilderness, it's over. Like, nothing I can do about it. So if there could be just anything to try to teach people on how they can begin to just get better at the actual PvP aspect, whatever kind of resources they can do, like you talked about, to give people better understanding and just a way to kind of guide people to learn PvP would be a fantastic idea, because that's going to be how you're going to draw more and more people to do PvP. So I think that would be real good.
I mean, there was a lot of success with LMS, I think, and it's still like quite active now as something like that, which has very little risk, or there's no risk, obviously. And the only risk or the only investment is really your time, and then the rewards you get based on your like how good you do. If you're winning games, you get more points. If you're killing people, you get more points. I think something like that. Because right now, if you want to get into PvP, you're right. You go against people, you just get stomped because they're just nerds that've been doing it for too long, and you're trying to get into it and stuff. So, it's very discouraging. Whatever else in the game, obviously, that's another separate problem itself with the death mechanics and stuff, which they're finally trying to sort out. But if you're losing like hundreds of thousands of gold every death, or even just in supply costs, like I mentioned earlier, you're losing 70k in supplies every time. If you want to learn to go into PvP for every inventory, you're going to cripple your bank pretty quickly. And it's an MMO, like you want progress, don't you, in your character? You don't want to see your bank dwindling away. And I guess it comes to a point where obviously there is that incentive to want to do the content for the content. You have fun doing it, but there needs to be some kind of a reward too, in a way, for your just time investment. Yeah, in like a safe manner, like LMS has, or like the Nylacast boss has, or someone in the chat said Demonic Gorillas has. So yeah, I'd love to see it too.
Yeah, I'm a very big fan of this, because right now people, as Randy said, they would just kind of try it out, get face rolled, and just completely stop. They're like, I'm not interested in this. Like, I'm especially more into it now, like reading that description of it, that actually sounds like quite useful. And I think it would probably be best to have it something like an NPC with the different mechanics like that, like y'all were talking about. I think that would be quite effective and drawing some interests for people to play with, know what they're doing, and then go experiment with some sort of underlying understanding of how everything works.
Was there anything else like PvP? I know I had to delete a couple questions. We've been having some real good discussion. I didn't want to podcast.
Is that the time? Wow.
I didn't want us to go on for dude, like we're actually lucky. Dan and Dan was sick in the game.
I didn't think we'd go on this long, even with them.
And the game broke, so Sween had to leave 2 minutes before the start. Because shit, if we had it probably would have been like over 3.5 hours, even including like the ones that I deleted. So, was there anything that we didn't touch on in relation to PvP that you guys wanted to just talk about at all, and maybe we're missing?
There was, again, I've got to be careful what we can and can't say, but I do recall them saying on the Q&A last week that that they are looking to host a Dead Man mode or Twisted League or something, or a King of the Skills, something of the sort, to take full effect of everyone being from home, and to give people something to do. So I think early next week, or mid next week, they're going to kind of sit down and let us know what their options are with that respect. And obviously I want I want D&M to come back, but whatever happens, that's something to look forward to. So that should be really exciting.
Sounds good.
Yeah, apart from that, I think we've covered pretty vast array of subjects, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Quite happy with what we've covered, and we've actually come up with a few good ideas I think they could implement. So hopefully someone from Jagex listens to it. I'm sure there's plenty of things that Ian and I would love to talk about for PvP, but we probably shouldn't get into it because
we could sit in a call and talk for hours, Manked and I, about Dead Man mode and PvP stuff, dude.
Yeah, but we probably shouldn't. But no, it's been fun.
Yeah, been awesome having you guys on. I appreciate you guys coming in. It was just a bunch of skillers here talking about PvP updates. How much actual good discussion.
One-sided.
well, it would also be with a lack of experience and information. So, getting Mank and Ian for having you guys on. Really loved having you guys on. Before we go here, what have you guys been up to during the podcast? And shout out your social media as well.
Oh God, you're gonna really hate me for this, but I've been bank
Plug it
standing,
hard.
dude. I should have logged into my Iron Man and like done some, I don't know, farm runs or something, or just AFK'd something. But I've been on my pure just walking around. Foe's got a 15-year anniversary today, so I got invited to come say hello. I walked up to them and said, "Hey, congrats, 15 years. That's cool to hear that PvP clans are still going on." I can ask you a question as well. What would you get you guys into PvP? I mean, obviously, I know you're very hardcore skillers. You're going for, high ranks and want to get 200 mil all. When that's over, or would you consider doing PvP, or what would like properly grasp you? Like Deadman mode, is that appealing to you anymore? And yeah.
So for me, I'm about 2 years or so away from 200 mil all. May anywhere between like 20 to 24 months, depending on how much I'm playing. But after that, like I do honestly want to like retire from RuneScape. But
Oh, really?
I mean, but no one ever really quits RuneScape. But but I think that with me, I don't know how like as I talked about before, like if I were to like get into PvP, I think that it would be through things like the bounty hunter, like seeing like I guess competing almost on the high scores, like for bounty hunter kills, something like that, or like something like that. And the onboarding for new PvPers, if they were to make that something that could like was understand, like you could understand and get into really well, it would be a good idea. Someone mentioned in the chat, like there are guides for like how to skill and how to PVM that are like broken down and are like make a whole lot of sense. Whereas it's much more difficult to teach PvPing. So if it was something that I could like be able to pick up on easy, I think that would be what would most get me into it. But I don't know, like I don't think that I'm gonna get into any kind of PvP after 200 mil all. Kind of like, and it sounds awful, but like kind of like the way that I'm looking at it is like if I wanted to do like PvP stuff, I would like more so focus on like games that are like PvP, like not that Call of Duty is, but like
I get you.
Something like that. I don't know about Abra, but
yeah, I'm quite similar. Like either basically retirement or like I'm playing Iron Man. I'm not really interested in PKing that much.
Fair play.
Fair enough. Have you shouted out your socials?
Oh god, yeah. At Ian Spam on Twitter, twitch.tv/PureSpam, and youtube.com/PureSpam if you want to keep up to date with my content. Come say hello. DMs are open. Feel free to message me if you want to have a discussion about stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I've had an absolute blast talking about RuneScape for a few hours. I've not done a podcast in such a long time, so I'm really glad I've had the opportunity to chat to you guys about something we're all passionate about, especially during this this whole situation, the whole lockdown. Nice to be social.
I've been worse than Ian, and I'm not even logged into RuneScape right now. However, I've that Gaiazo in Discord of someone G-mauling someone out. I think I've watched that about 300 times now.
Just on loop.
It's just been on loop, yeah. Just been watching constant G-mauling, which has been quite enjoyable. But my socials, twitch.tv/Manked. I'm actually starting a new series in a couple of days, which should be a lot of fun. And then Twitter.
Any details on the new series, or is it going to be a
new
surprise?
series? You know what? Go on then. I'll do. It's basically a combination of Bronze Man mode from Ronan, kind of. Oh, Siri just popped off. Kind of a combo of Sea Engineer's hardcore PvP world thing, and yeah, it should just be a lot of fun. And then sorry, Twitter is Manked and my YouTube is Manked as well. And yeah, again, thank you very much for having me on here, and I hope everyone stays safe and has enjoyed.
Yeah, no, it's been a nice podcast, and I didn't know until like a couple of weeks ago we have a spreadsheet of all the stuff podcast related.
That was new. I made that board on a lunch break at work.
Yeah, so on there, I learned that besides Jens and Caleb, I'm the person that's been on the podcast the most. So that's pretty cool.
How many have you been on?
So this will be number 17.
All right, good shit.
Yeah, it's good stuff. No, I enjoy it. It's very very fun. But anyways, I've just been AFKing, fishing at the pond, and some Rune Dragons. And then I haven't streamed for a while, so I feel a little bad shouting that, but it's the same as the IGN, just Abra238, and then Twitter append it with _RS, and there you go.
All right. You guys follow me on Twitter, Randalicious RS, Twitch, Randalicious. Follow the Hexis account on Twitter at Hexis. And the next Hexis podcast, we'll be looking to have it, depending on how, I know that we're going to be hitting a low here in terms of content that come out. So we might be looking to wait off and have it about like 3 weeks for the next podcast. But, I'll be sure to update everyone with what's going on Twitter, where you can follow the Hexis account. We'll be posting updates on when that's going to be, and we'll post it ahead of time. With this podcast, we've now surpassed over 100 different unique guests on the podcast, so it's been pretty awesome. And thank you for everyone for tuning in. And I'll have those of you who are watching the Twitch and have maybe tuned in late, I'll have it uploaded onto YouTube. It'll be up tomorrow morning. You'll be able to view it on all other podcast platforms. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Please practice social distancing,
proper hygiene,
check your posture, stay hydrated, and stay safe.
Keep gaming.
God bless. See you guys.